right. Hello and welcome to everyone out there. 9:06 p.m. on July 12th, 2026. You have reached the Diamond Report Live. We are back again, and it is Sunday night again, and here to do some talking for the next couple of hours, at least go through the news and see what all we can scrounge up to talk about. It looks like, it's one of those situations where if you happen to think that the world we live in is boring at this point, I don't know what's going on, but you'd probably be wrong about that because there's new stuff and more craziness seems like every single minute. Speaking of which, here is the latest, and I know you guys all know about this by now, but apparently Senator Lindsey Graham has died, and we've got several things on this tonight, and the conspiracy theories have already started, some of which, who knows, could be true. But we'll start with Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Lindsey Graham, a longtime Republican senator from South Carolina, died on Saturday after a, quote, brief and sudden illness. His office said in a statement he was 71. Here is the suddenly and unexpected way that potentially he died. Now, we don't know for sure, so we're going to look at a few different things, and of course, it'll be up to you guys to draw your own conclusions on what happened to Lady G here. But suffice it to say, there's at least a couple different stories of possibilities as far as what happened to the guy. Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly difficult period, said in the statement, which was posted early Sunday this morning on social media. This is from his own account. Statement from the office of U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina. Washington, the office of Graham released the following statement on the evening of Saturday, July 11th. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away from a brief and sudden illness. Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly difficult period. And then again, on Hal's website, it says, just days ago, Iran threatened to kill him. At least they used a good photo of me, Lindsey tweeted. Judge me by my enemies. Note he is here with the other major Jewish supporters and donors. And it says, at Khamenei's funeral in Tehran, signs display Trump, Ben Shapiro, Laura Loomer, Miriam Adelson, who is a mega donor to Trump's campaign, Lindsey Graham and others with red targets over their faces. Next, the text reads, in the end, your heads will be severed. Well, I mean, they did threaten the guy, but the guy also apparently took some COVID vaxes and was in the air for quite a while, which can lead to accelerated issues with blood flow and things like that, as everyone knows. Graham had just come back from a Kiev, Ukraine meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, the little dictator, on Friday. Good meeting with, this is from Zelensky's account, good meeting with Graham in Kiev. This is already his 10th visit to our country, and we appreciate this support. I'm so grateful to Lindsey for recognizing our warriors. The stronger Ukraine is on the battlefield, the greater the chances that diplomacy will ultimately succeed. And right now, it's important that our long-range sanctions pressure on Russia be reinforced through new sanction steps by our partners. Lindsey briefed me on the work underway in Congress on the relevant bill. We also discussed our urgent air defense needs to protect our people during the NATO summit in Ankara, which is Turkey, I believe. President Trump and I reached political agreements on licensing the production of Patriots in Ukraine, assuming that's Patriot missiles. It is now crucial to implement all of this at the team level. I thank the United States, the President, and the Congress for bipartisan and consistent support from both chambers. I would have read that in my Cookie Monster voice, but I don't do very good Cookie Monster dictator voices. However, you get the idea. So, going back to this page, back to Hal's site here. Emergency medical services received a call around 8:30 p.m. for a person suffering chest pains at the Capitol Hill home owned by Graham, according to the audio. About 25 minutes later, emergency personnel said that CPR was in progress and that a man at the house was suffering from cardiac arrest. That is true. That's all true. I've heard the recording. If it's truly from that incident, it is out there. and I think I've got that tab. I've got that pulled up on a separate link here in just a bit. We'll get to it. I believe that's on the Gateway Pundit, so we'll check into that. This one says, breaking D.C. medical examiner releases preliminary findings after Graham's sudden death. So there's this different groups of different ways of thinking, possibly, of what happened here. And one is that, indeed, he did just come back from Ukraine and then was suddenly stricken by a heart attack or whatever, and there seems to be some evidence to prove that may be the case. The other thing that I've heard, and I don't know that I really personally buy into this, but he was very clearly at a drone manufacturing facility in Kiev being given a tour, and then right afterwards, within, I don't know, hours, really, the Russians struck that very facility and blew it up. Now, he was not in the facility when that happened. There were rumors that they also hit a hotel where he possibly could have been. And there's some question apparently on the timeline of, could Graham have feasibly traveled all the way back home from the time that the explosions happened when Russia blew up those facilities in the hotel, if that's what happened? Could he have made it all the way back home? And some people say, no, that's not possible. And I personally don't know. I don't know enough about the timeline to know what happened, other than it seems to me like this heart attack thing does seem pretty legit, although it's really hard to say these days. Clearly, there were people that didn't like the guy, myself being one of them, but I don't know how many people actually wanted him knocked off either, though. And you know, we saw the picture of him taking the injection there, so maybe he did it to himself. I don't know. Breaking D.C. medical examiner releases preliminary findings after Graham's sudden death. D.C. medical examiner releases preliminary examination findings after his sudden death. Graham passed away on Saturday night. He was 71. All of the 911 calls revealed Lindsey Graham had chest pains before going into cardiac arrest at his D.C. home. The preliminary examination findings were aortic dissection due to arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease. So it sounds like heart disease, which you can definitely, once you reach that age, that is a real possibility. And plus, if he's injecting himself with the safe and effective methods that we all talk about all the time, that might have accelerated things. The death certificate will be pending until all the toxicological and microscopic testing are finalized, and at that point, the death certificate will be updated to reflect the cause of death and appropriately classify the manner of death. So that is from the D.C. Medical Examiner's Office. Bill Melugin, I guess, is who tweeted this. The FBI is assisting with local authorities. However, Fox News reported that foul play is not suspected in Graham's death. So I don't know. I think it just depends on who you ask. Personally, I think it's probably the old Occam's razor, that the simplest explanation is probably the explanation. So here's the audio. Lindsey Graham 911 call, chest pains, cardiac arrest. Let me just go right to it. This is just more explanation as to what it was. Radio traffic in response to Senator Graham's home. Emergency radio traffic indicates that the senator suffered chest pains before going into cardiac arrest on Saturday night. Efforts to revive the lawmaker were not successful. Well, anyway, let's listen to this clip.
In response, 517 response, chest pains, South Capitol Street, Southeast. In response, 517 response, chest pains, South Capitol Street, Southeast. And let's respond to medical local, Intercept 7 respond for chest pains, South Capitol Street, Southeast. Text 737-2027.
Agent 7 to communications for a call back. You have open the front door.
High copy, stand by for call back 2032.
Agent 7, bye.
Agent 7, the caller says she's not in the home. She says the door is unlocked. Because you guys are letting me know.
Deadbolt is secured.
I copy. Stand by. Communication Agent 7, the caller says, have you tried knocking at the door to see if the patient will answer?
Yes, repeatedly.
Communications to Engine 7. A caller states that she's coming from Baltimore to get to your location. Would you like a truck to force entry MPD?
We'll need MPD. We'll force entry.
Copy. Requested MPD 2035. Come in, Engine 7.
Go ahead and start me the CPR supervisor. CPR in progress now.
I copy. CPR in progress 2033. EMS 6 responded to Engine 7 at 7 on scene, cardiac arrest, South Capitol Street, Southeast. EMS 6 responded to Engine 7 Medic 7 with cardiac arrest. 73-year-old male at South Capitol Street, Southeast. That channel 311 2054. Communication to Engine 7, you have EMS 6.
Engine 7's okay.
2054.
Battalion 2 to communications.
Come in, Battalion 2.
You can attach me to the run with Engine 7, to Medic 7 on South Capitol Street. There is no need for attack channel.
So, there you see it. And they did say 73-year-old man, but obviously that's a pretty simple thing to have gotten wrong in a situation like this. And, yeah, who knows exactly. But to me, I feel like the simplest thing may be that could be what actually happened. But I'm sure we will find out more in the days, weeks, and months to come. And I was noticing some of the comments here you guys were posting in chat, and this is something that I thought about myself, and I think Hazelnut is correct, not saying this is what happened, but the CIA does have a heart attack gun. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They do have that. It's been demonstrated. It goes back to at least the 70s, I think, from what I understand. And that may be the case. So who would want to off him? Well, he made a lot of enemies, so let's just put it that way. It's really hard to say. Needless to say, though, it appears he is gone. So let's see what this is. Oh, this is a tweet from Trump, which is so ridiculous because Graham was, at one point, pretty much a bitter enemy to Donald Trump, but apparently they decided that they have Israel in common, and they began quite the bromance over the last couple of years. It says, in honor of the remarkable life and achievements of Senator Lindsey Graham, a dear friend of mine and truly great man who achieved so much for our country in his beloved home state of South Carolina, I am ordering all American flags throughout the United States lowered to half-mast until Saturday evening, 6 p.m. God bless you, Lindsey. President DJT. So you can tell what Donald John Trump thinks about the guy. He loved him. So he's clearly in mourning. Might be shaking in his boots a little bit, too, if he suspects that indeed something else was afoot. If it wasn't actually a heart attack. Of course, Trump has taken the exact same shots, theoretically. So not that he thinks that there's anything that's an issue, really, with taking those death injections. But apparently, he may be worried that someone else got to him. I came across this post, thought it was good as well, and wanted to play it for you. A montage of a bloodthirsty, warmongering Lindsey Graham who joked about killing innocent civilians and suggested Israel should nuke Gaza. America First is to KILL people who wish us ill. I feel good about the Republican Party. We are KILLing all the right people, and so on and so on.
America First is to kill people who wish us ill.
I feel good about the Republican Party. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II. You just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks. We're going to blow the hell out of these people. We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Iran's going to have a choice in 2 to 3 weeks. You either do a deal where you get out of the business you're in, or we're going to blow your stuff up. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family?
gosh.
They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends. I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. To our friends in Israel, God bless you. I'm with you in every way. To all the anti-Semitites, to all the isolationists, forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. There's no better partner on the planet than Israel. God bless Israel.
All right.
We should move all our stuff to Israel. Thank you.
Yeah, notice he does say it the way that I've been mentioning it the last few weeks. Israel. Izrul. There was some question, I guess, over the last show or so where people weren't understanding what I was even talking about. It's not code. It's just the way they say Israel. It's Israel. And Lady G here could also have been a pretty darn good ambassador for Israel, if you ask me. But funny that he said all of the anti-Semitites. Semitites. So that's a new one. Hadn't heard that one. I thought that was a pretty good clip and demonstrates how he actually seemed to think about Israel and how important it was that Israel be first and foremost the number one thing that all of us be concerned about. This is something that I think sort of sums things up pretty nicely. This is a tweet. It's just a screenshot from this tweet. Expecting Mitch McConnell, but getting Lindsey Graham is like ordering a chocolate chip cookie, but getting a snickerdoodle. I'm confused, but not upset. That's pretty well put, I think. Pretty well put. I do like snickerdoodles. You guys probably do as well. All right. And we got more on Lady G that we'll get to. So Hal's other story that I thought I would mention tonight, this is dated an hour or two ago. Updated 9:05 p.m. today, reportedly. U.S. reportedly attacks Iran again. I think they're pretty much making a daily or hourly habit of that at this point. 2:45 Eastern Daylight, I'm getting reports claiming, this is Hal talking, about 2 hours ago the United States began attacking Iran again. Apparently they did this because about 3 hours ago, Iran launched a large-scale surprise attack on Kuwait with 3 ballistic missiles directly impacting U.S. ATACMS, ground-to-ground missile systems in retaliation for Kuwait attacking Iran yesterday. Massive plumes of smoke rising from the impact sites in Kuwait. This being Sunday afternoon with oil future markets to begin trading again in a matter of hours, Washington seems to be taking bets on how close they can come to the open of trading with actual military action before the intellectual retards who trade oil futures finally figure out that Hormuz is not going to reopen in any meaningful way before the oil runs out in much of the world. Apparently, the men who trade oil futures can't comprehend even these childlike colored charts from Bloomberg, showing how few ships have transited Hormuz, about 20% of the daily global oil needs, since the end of this year. Yeah, that is kind of a drop-off right there. Anyway, update earlier tonight, summary of U.S. strikes reported across southern and western Iran. So this is all the places supposedly that indicate strikes and explosions all over southwest Iran, or Iran, depending on how you want to say it. Damage assessments are still underway as reports continue to emerge. Anyway, that one's on halturnerradioshow.com. And we've talked a lot about Israel tonight already, but we need to. So much going on with the little terroristic country over there in the Middle East. Well, I wanted to bring your attention to this one before we get too far into the evening, because this is something that we all need to know about. So this is Dr. Chuck Baldwin, a pastor that I personally respect a lot. And I think his position on Israel seems to be the correct one, as far as I can tell. Congress moving bill to criminalize criticizing Israel. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. That is a quote attributed to Voltaire. And very, very true, huh? Our federal government, especially under DJT, is doing everything it can to suppress free speech in the United States, particularly speech that is critical of Israel. Under Trump, public colleges and universities are under duress and threat of federal sanction if they allow public criticism of Israel by professors, teachers, or students. Students, especially foreign students, here legally are threatened with expulsion from the United States if they criticize Israel, even on social media. You've got to give it to MAGA. They love totalitarianism. They sure do. The new MAGA especially does. That would be B.S., Ben Shapiro, and Mark Levin and all of their ilk. Larry Loomer. Now, however, it is the Congress of the United States that is in the process of attempting to pass a bill that would criminalize criticizing the Zionist state by the people of the United States. So this is a few paragraphs here written by a person named Eric Stryker for UNZ Review, which is unz.com. In May and June, a bipartisan coalition of 15 House Republicans and 14 Democrats formally sponsored the Jewish American Security Act, JASA, J-A-S-A, a piece of legislation that, if it passed, would constitute one of the most sweeping attacks on the First Amendment in American history. The bill enjoys practically universal backing from Jewish nonprofits and Zionist activist groups. Of course it does. The new law presents four major demands: the appointment of a specialized anti-Semitism commissioner, which we heard about that before and mentioned that on the show before. Anti-Semitism commissioner to manage the Department of Education's campaign combating pro-Palestinian activism on college campuses, a $1 billion cash injection to secure Zionist nonprofits and Jewish houses of worship, mandatory state monitoring of online social media platforms in order to force them to censor anti-Semitic political speech on their platforms, and officially reorienting the mission of the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and National Counterintelligence and Security Center as instruments for targeting critics of Jews and Israel as foreign enemy actors and domestic terrorists. That would be yours truly and everyone else out there listening tonight, most likely. Yeah, anti-Shemitism, not anti-Semitism, Marty says. No, you're right. It's exactly correct. Anyway, this is what's going on. And I just read a brief little bit of that, but this is the Zionists are desperate, talking about their days of influence and power are almost over. I hope so. I don't know if I'm necessarily that, what you would call white-pilled about that. Here are the co-sponsors, and it lists all of the representatives, Republicans and Democrats, who are supporting this bill. And it is House Bill number 9211. Not House Bill number 911. That would be too obvious. No, it's 9211. It says you need to keep a close watch on this bill now making its way through Congress. It's House Bill number 9211. It's linked here in this chuckbaldwinlive.com article. Sponsored by Representative Daniel Goldman. How about that name? Who's a Democrat from New York, and co-sponsored by 37 other House representatives and 19 Republicans, 19 of which are Republicans and 18 are Democrats, according to this. So it's a lot of the usual suspects, but there are others, people I don't even know that I've ever heard of. But yeah, you do see Randy Fine, people like that, of course. And then Chuck says, as I said in my address last Sunday, America needs another Declaration of Independence. The one that we have seems to work pretty well. It's just it needs to be enforced. And so I would disagree with that. But they're just ignoring what they don't like. And that is, of course, any speech that goes against Israel. Anyway, I thought that one was pretty interesting. ChuckBaldwinLive.com is where that is. Good info. Netanyahu knows who the boss is, quote unquote, after phone call. Does he? I find that hilarious. President Trump and Bibi could meet as early as next week after the U.S. leader returns from the annual NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey. That's what Trump told Axios on Saturday after a Friday phone call wherein the Israeli PM congratulated the American leader on the 250th Independence Day of the United States. Trump said something very interesting in the wake of the call. "We get along very good," meaning Netanyahu, "knows who the boss is," he told Axios. U.S.-Israel relations have been deeply strained of late, given deep Israeli reluctance on the U.S.-Iran MOU, as I call it, MOUSE, signing, as well as the U.S.-mediated ceasefire in Lebanon. Israel fears that the end result to a hasty peace could be a nuclear-armed Iran. And some Israeli leaders have gone so far as to say military action must not stop until there's a true regime change, which means decades. That's what they mean. And that's what they want. Decades would be nice. Just ask Lady G. Oh, wait. Can't really do that too easily now. Anyway, speaking of Lady G, let's go back to just a little bit more information here that I came across earlier tonight and wanted to share with you guys. So this is a still picture, I guess, of just real recently, him walking through this drone factory. U.S. Senator and close Trump ally Lindsey Graham dead at 71 after brief and sudden illness, quote unquote. Just yesterday, U.S. Senator Graham visits drone production facility during Ukraine trip. Then Russia bombs exact plant hours later. So here's the article for that. And we'll link to this in the Substack post that I put out probably on Tuesday this week. That will have all the links of everything I'm talking about tonight on this entire show. Russia hits Kiev drone manufacturing plant. Strikes also hit port infrastructure in Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Izmail. Used to transport and store military cargo and fuel, the defense ministry in Moscow has said. I was looking to see if it mentioned anything about any hotels. It doesn't, as far as I can tell. Anyway, yeah. So there it is as far as the actual drone factory. It says, then Lindsey dies of a heart attack, ? And the media is calling a brief and sudden illness. First instinct, blame on Russia or Iran for further escalation. So here you can see him holding his favorite murdering device here as he's been given the tour. To think only 107 days earlier, though, he was at Walt Disney World as a single sodomite carrying a pink bubble wand. We've all seen the pictures of the pink bubble wand that he loved so much. And hopefully they will put it right next to him in the casket. Maybe he will be clinching it. I don't know. Yeah, this is also someone that I think may be a little worried. Larry Loomer, maybe a little worried that old Lady G's gone based on this tweet. 5 days ago, Graham posted about how the IRGC threatened to assassinate him. They threatened to assassinate me, meaning Larry Loomer here, and President Trump as well, with matching posters of our faces held by IRGC operatives in Khamenei's funeral that called for our heads to roll. Now Senator Graham is dead 1 day after returning from Ukraine. Russia sent a delegation to Khamenei's funeral. While in Ukraine, Senator Graham spoke about sanctioning Russia and further assisting Ukraine in their defense against Putin. Recently, Russia threatened to supply Iran with nuclear weapons. This doesn't feel like a coincidence. Larry Loomer that's the name that Candace and others call her, so that's why I've taken to calling her that as well. But she is definitely a strange one out there. But yeah, she says it doesn't feel like coincidence. She may be right about that. We present to you the H-1B Visa Explorer. So I thought this was really interesting. It says every filing, every county, every employer. Filter by zip code to zoom into the heat map over 11 fiscal years. And then it says just infinity Indians pouring into every county in the U.S. Insane. So let's take a look at this. This is pretty wild. So if you're interested in the old H-1B visa and how it may be affecting your local area, this is a really good site for this. I was looking at it earlier. So what you want to do is you can click on wherever you want on the map here. I'm going to go click on Tennessee and zoom in. And this is a county near me, although I'm going to click on Davidson County because that is the capital. Yeah, it's saying 20,621 LCA filings. So you can get all of the detail here by clicking on it. And by doing a search in your area, it will give you the number of employers in your county who are using this H-1B visa system. 2,156 employers. No, that's in the whole state. 2,156 employers in the whole state, and that's 91 counties. And then 74,000 filings in the entire state. So of that, though, 21,000 is almost 21,000 filings just in Davidson County. So the point is you can zoom in and you can get quite a bit of really good information. It's on a website called Layoff Hedge, Hedge, layoffhedge.com. And we'll link to that in the Substack post. But I wanted to mention that just because I came across it and thought it was kind of cool. I always like things with maps. And check into the whole H-1B visa issue, which of course is mostly all Indians coming from the same area in India to take American jobs, essentially. Trump reveals grim assassination orders he's left for aides if he is murdered as U.S. launches Operation B-I-H Slap. I guess that's what that is. B***. B-I-H Slap. This is on Daily Mail. Donald Trump has left instructions detailing the severe military retaliation that should occur if Iran successfully assassinates him. Of course, it won't be Iran. It will be Israel, and then they will blame Iran. That's the way it works. Everyone seems to know this, except for Trump. I've been on their list for a long time. That's what we're dealing with. Trump told the New York Post on Friday. The only thing is I've left instructions, if anything happens, to just literally bomb them at levels that they've never seen before. So again, that gives Israel everything they could ever want and more. Asked about recent intelligence reports indicating that Israel had flagged an active plot targeting him this week, Trump dismissed the idea of a newly surfaced threat, emphasizing instead that Tehran's lethal intentions have been going on for years. Now, I'm not saying Tehran doesn't want to get rid of him. Of course they do. The question is, do they have the means to do it? Or does Israel have the means to do it? See, here's proof here that they want him gone, obviously. And Bibi and the whole consortium of what you could call MAGA people at this point. People in charge. But do they have the ability to carry it out? I don't know, but I do know Israel certainly does. So you can bet if something happens to old DJT, Israel should be the first place everyone looks. Yeah, and then we've heard about this one. We mentioned McConnell earlier. Major health update. Mitch McConnell, 84, as brain dead. Rumor grips D.C. Now, there's been all kinds of reports on the turtle here. Mitch McConnell is reportedly alert and talking about issues from Iran to the political scandal gripping a Maine Senate candidate, despite a wild rumor that he's brain dead, quote unquote, after being admitted to the hospital 3 weeks ago. Yeah, Scott Jennings, GOP political strategist, who I personally don't trust. He's one of the few, I guess you could call him conservative voices on CNN. I don't trust the guy. On Tuesday, he posted on X, I spoke to my old friend Mitch McConnell this morning, senior senator from Kentucky. He's still recovering in the hospital. We talked for just shy of 20 minutes. So it's always 20 minutes with what Scott Jennings says. I've seen some other memes and jokes about that. Talked for just shy of 20 minutes about Iran, Ukraine, and unfolding situation in Maine, my visit to the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and even a little bit of history. Yeah, and then the lady he was talking to on CNN simply asked him, meaning Scott Jennings, to have McConnell call into the show, which seems like he could have pretty easily done, especially if he's just sitting in the hospital in a bed, just reading the newspaper, and he kind of backed off at that point after she suggested that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't think old McConnell is really doing as well as we were being led to believe. So I've got some other articles on the turtle here, so let me find those. Some of my articles for tonight are a little bit out of order, but I can find them and we can make it work. Here's one of them. Gateway Pundit, seriously, ? McConnell released a statement, says no stroke or heart attack, but instead he had a fall that has kept him hospitalized for a month? ? I don't know if I buy that one. He's not appeared in the Senate for 3 weeks. This is dated today. After being hospitalized in mid-June for an undisclosed medical condition, he's not appeared in public since he landed in the hospital on June 14th. So yeah, on Tuesday it'll be a whole month, when he was found unconscious. His office has declined to reveal details of the illness or provide a timetable for his return. Leaked emergency dispatch audio from a June 14 call indicated McConnell was reportedly found unconscious at his Kentucky home and may have suffered a heart attack. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Meanwhile, McConnell's wife, former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, traveled to Beijing following the hospitalization, where she met with Chinese Vice President Han Jing. Because that's what you would normally do if your husband's in the hospital. You would go jump on a plane as fast as possible and fly to China. Which is why they call Mitch McConnell the turtle. That's why they call him China Mitch. Because he's literally, seemingly, married to a Chinese spy, which makes him a Chinese spy as well, by default. Yeah, McConnell released a statement and a photo of himself and with his wife on Facebook on Sunday. Today, he's sitting in a hospital bed with his wife. So here's that photo. Let me... But I find this one highly interesting. Now, this picture here doesn't really look all that suspicious. Looks like he's, really maybe semi-okay. And there's the wife. However, this is the full picture. And what do you notice here? Now, the main thing that people have noticed in this particular picture that I saw on X earlier this evening is that this newspaper that he's holding is a legitimate newspaper. I forget which paper it is. But it is a legitimate newspaper printed today with this picture of this baseball player on it, dated today. So people are saying, see, he's fine. He's fine. Because he's holding today's newspaper. That doesn't, though, tell us for sure if this picture is AI or not. It doesn't, just to look at it, it doesn't really look AI to me. You can usually kind of tell. But the thing that I find very odd is that he is fully dressed in street clothes, laying in his hospital bed. Do you ever see that when you go visit someone in the hospital? And of course, this is the wife back from China. The emergency meeting with the Chinese, what was he? Whatever he was. Vice president of something. I don't think that was this article. But anyway, yeah, he's wearing street clothes. I find that very strange. So that, to me, makes it a little odd and pretty unbelievable. That doesn't mean that there really is anything that is going on here, but it sure seems like it. I think we're definitely being kept in the dark on this. And, who knows what the truth is, but it is pretty interesting, isn't it? I think that's all I had on... No, here's one more. Here's one more Gateway Pundit article. Let's look at this one. Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, issues statement addressing his health upon her return from China. Doesn't say emergency trip, but that's kind of what it seemed like. I was looking to see what the statement is. The statement emphasized that Chao was already abroad in a previously scheduled trip supporting her family's philanthropic work when McConnell was admitted to the hospital, and that his condition at the time did not require her to cut the trip short. So that's what she's saying. Secretary was on a long-planned trip to China to support her family's philanthropic endeavors. During the trip, she met with a number of people, including the U.S. ambassador. The senator's health did not warrant an immediate return to the U.S. So she wasn't too worried about him, even though it's her husband, and he took a fall and was in the hospital still almost a month later. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm buying this one. He was hospitalized following what officials describe as a health issue requiring medical attention. Now, that is about as general as it gets. He was hospitalized following what the officials are calling a health issue that required medical attention. That really explains exactly what happened. Some people were saying heart attack. Some people were saying a fall. If it was a fall, and that's all it was, it seems like they would have let her know that. And then indeed what happened if she was already there would be that, yeah, she probably would fulfill the rest of her trip and stay there and then come back. If it was a heart attack, do you think she wouldn't just, if she really loved him, wouldn't just drop everything and jump on the next plane, come back to the U.S. if he was suffering from a heart attack or those types of possibilities? I mean, it seems to me like that would be the case. But who knows? Who knows? It is China Mitch we're talking about here. Anyway, that one I thought was rather odd. There's a really well-known, I would call him a big pharma researcher, a guy that I really respect a lot, a guy named John Rappaport, who just passed away the other day. And John Bound had made a post about this, so we're going to take a look at that. Before we do, though, here is one other pretty interesting meme. Speaking of the turtle and Sixth Sense, you get the point. Pretty well done. Anyway, yeah, so let's look at this information about John Rappaport, which many of you guys may not know who he is, but I've been following his work for some time. He was a pretty frequent guest on AJ's show over the years. That's where I think where I first saw him. And Richard, that I used to work with on Lost Arts Radio, was a huge fan of John Rappaport's work. And he did some amazing work on vaccines and pharma in general, just over decades. Well, he recently passed away with an undisclosed illness. And John Bound tweeted, "Godspeed and God bless John Rappaport. It was an honor to have known him and to have been a friend. There are a handful of brave souls that have ventured into the darkness to retrieve the light. Please look to John and all of his work as a beacon. Safe travels, friend." So let's look at this just real briefly. And as we do, you may recognize him. He had a website called No More Fake News, nomorefakenews.com. And this is him. He moved over to Substack some time ago. And that's what we're linking to here, I think. Substack right here. And he's got his X account and YouTube channel listed as well. But apparently there's not really that much information on his site. I was looking to see if that was still even up, and it is, but there's not much there. All of the work that John did that was public is on his Substack, and we'll link to this in my Substack post as well. One of his work colleagues basically took over for him just a few days ago. And one thing that was published, I guess it was Friday, John's pre-recorded farewell message. John knew that he didn't have much time, so he actually left a pre-recorded message to only be played after his passing. So I thought that was really interesting. It's a 5-minute long piece, and here's his actual words that's stated in the audio recording. And here he is there, very ill, I think probably a birthday or something. And here he is years ago with the wife. And I think she recently died in the last few years, recently died as well. So anyway, that said, I just wanted to mention John Rappaport and his work on especially vaccines and pharma. And as I mentioned, my good friend and former colleague, Richard Sachs from Lost Arts Radio, of which I was the producer of that show the entire time that it was available. We actually interviewed, and it was the 7th show that we ever did. I had to go find it in the archives. This particular YouTube version only got 150 views, which is really strange. This particular show, though, is special guest John Rappaport and Dr. Rima Lebeau. Not at the same time, one and then the other. So it's a 3-hour show, and I think Rappaport is first, and then Rima was after that. And Dr. Rima is also a frequent guest on Lost Arts Radio. Anyway, there's a really good interview. It's audio only. And again, we'll link to this in the Substack post if you do want to happen to listen to Mr. Rappaport. And he makes some really, really great points. It's all obviously pre-COVID. This was dated February 2015. So this particular recording has been on YouTube for 10 years. I can't believe they haven't taken it down. Here's what Richard said about John Rappaport. And it was what we called the Vaccine Information Marathon Part 3 with 2 very special guests, Rappaport and Dr. Lebeau. The true pros and cons of vaccines. Again, this was 2015 when we put this out. John Rappaport, No More Fake News, which is the website I just showed you guys, has worked as a freelance journalist for more than 30 years, since 40 years at this point. He is a painter, poet, and author of The Matrix Revealed, Exit from the Matrix, and Power Outside the Matrix. He was a candidate for the U.S. Congress in 1994. He had researched and written extensively on the medical cartel, alternative health, many aspects of what goes on behind the facade in the political world, and especially what are the potential solutions to a world run by hidden elites instead of by the people they control. John has been a guest on numerous high-visibility radio programs and has also hosted and produced radio programs in Los Angeles and Las Vegas. His insights into a wide range of topics, including those related to health, are insightful and cutting edge. So that's just a little brief entry there, a brief intro into John Rappaport's work. He was not a doctor. He was just an individual who loved to research, and I thought he did extraordinarily good work. I've been on his Substack list and newsletter email list, even before it was Substack, for years. Really since this recording, so 10 years. Anyway, I wanted to mention all that just because most of you guys probably have no idea who he is, but I think he will be dearly missed, and the guy that's taken over for him is somebody that he really trusted to put out work that had not been published yet, as well as republishing old work and things like that. So I think that the world isn't quite done hearing from John Rappaport, but he did a lot of really, really good work, again, on alternative health and anti-vaccine, anti-big pharma type of work, which may be right up your alley, certainly was for myself. All right, so let's look at this. We have quite a bit here to go over on this. So the big trial, which was, I guess it was preliminary hearing is what it was. Charlie Kirk investigator says initial response was organized chaos, quote unquote. Tyler Robinson hearing day 1 is what's listed here. Prosecutors laid out evidence Monday against conservative activist Charlie Kirk's accused killer as his preliminary hearing got underway. This is on a website called News Nation Now. Government said it will present 4 law enforcement witnesses, up to 50 exhibits, including some that are graphic in nature during the 5-day hearing. The hearing will focus on whether there's enough evidence for Tyler Robinson, 23, to be tried and whether the death penalty should be considered. A preliminary hearing plays out like a trial where prosecutors offer up evidence linking Robinson to the crime, show autopsy results, investigator testimony, and witness statements. 2 key pieces of evidence will be alleged: text message, confession, and a recorded statement from Robinson's roommate and partner, which that's interesting. The whole thing with the furry trans guy, supposedly, which he was very, I would say very, I don't know if masculine is the right word, but he was very decidedly a male in the recorded, heavily edited clips that we were shown. Didn't seem to be anything trans about him, as far as I could tell, as far as what anyone was saying really on him. So that was highly suspect, I think. Very interesting. David Hull, former Utah State Bureau of Investigation SBI agent, was the second witness to take the stand. He testified about that the investigation began as organized chaos as authorities worked to determine whether an active shooter was still at large before locking down the campus. So anyway, this is the whole detailed day one deal here. Officer on duty describes chaos after Kirk shot, sees sniper pad. So there's a lot of video out there about this whole thing, and people breaking it down, people talking about exactly what went on, and all the odd things about it. Let's take a look at this. This is a post on X from Candace. She's been front and center, of course, in this whole thing. Although she's been, I guess, out of town or something for the last couple weeks, so hasn't talked about this whole preliminary trial quite yet, at least not publicly. Although she may have on X, I'm not sure. Breaking news, Ben Shapiro just confessed on his show that while Charlie was being transported to the hospital and bleeding out to death, his security was on the phone with Charlie's security receiving updates. I knew it, she said. Someone explained to me why during the minutes while Charlie was dying in the backseat of the car, Charlie's security team was providing updates to Ben Shapiro's team rather than focusing entirely on saving Charlie's life and finding the killer. I will remind you all that Brian Harple, one of the security members who was in that car en route to the hospital, is currently suing me, meaning Candace, and is using Ben Shapiro's lawyer, who has sued me relentlessly on Ben's behalf for the last 3 years. Ben hated Charlie. Everyone knew that. So why in the HE double hockey sticks was this demon receiving updates in the mere minutes after Charlie was hit en route to the hospital? Yeah, he was on video bragging that he was on the phone with the security team of Charlie's. So the whole thing is just really wacky. Who on Charlie's security team betrayed him in this way? Everything Ben did following the assassination made my alarm bells go off, Candace says. I've told you guys that there's something about the Daily Wire and their relentlessly stalking of me following my firing has made me feel altogether unsafe. I have felt their obsessive focus on destroying me is deranged and increasingly dangerous. What did Andrew Colvett mean when he told me it was supposed to be you? Quote unquote. He did say that, according to what Candace is saying here. It was supposed to be you. Does that mean it was supposed to be her that died? No one really knows. And why did Turning Point betray Charlie so quickly by allowing Ben to open at AmFest after declaring immediately that he would pick up Charlie's bloody mic? Yeah, he did say that. Why didn't Ben mention this before today, that he was receiving status updates when Charlie was bleeding out? I clocked that Ben was too invested in this, his energy on stage demanding that Megyn Kelly call me evil, and his overprotective stance on Erica always registered to me as deeply nervous. Ben Shapiro is satanic. Candace is saying here, everything in my soul tells me he worships Satan, literally. Look at his demeanor in this clip. We need to find out exactly who on Charlie's team betrayed him by providing immediate updates to this parasite. And you'll note, too, that Bibi Netanyahu was one of the first people, wasn't the first, but he was one of the first people to tweet when Charlie had passed. So he clearly had someone in the room at the hospital the moment that Charlie was pronounced dead. It sounds like. So it was probably someone working with Ben, I'm guessing.
So I remember where I was when all this was happening. I was in Los Angeles. I had sort of a breakfast/lunch meeting with somebody. And I got the news that Charlie had been shot, and my security was on the phone with Charlie's security because nobody knew what the hell was going on, while Charlie was still in the back of the car, and we were sort of getting updates along the way.
Well, you get the idea. That was just a 20-second clip here. So anyway, there is a little bit more on this particular post on X Candace Owens post. And then going back to the hearing here for just a second, it's kind of wrapped up in this post as well, WNG.org. Judge to rule on trial for accused Charlie Kirk assassin in September. The 5-day hearing for the 23-year-old charged with murdering conservative activist Kirk concluded on Friday. Tyler Robinson faced aggravated murder charges for Kirk's September 10th assassination that took place while Kirk was speaking at UVU. To date, Robinson has not entered any plea. The preliminary hearing, nationally dubbed as a mini-trial, aimed to establish whether prosecutors had reasonable grounds to prosecute the alleged assassin for the crime. The hearing gave both sides a chance to air evidence and testimony and let State District Judge Tony Graff decide what evidence would stand in a possible future trial. Kirk's parents, along with his widow, Erica, attending the multi-day hearing and received acknowledgement by Graff from the bench. What kind of evidence was presented? ? Attorneys presented surveillance footage, bystander video, photos, maps, message screenshots, and various investigative reports to the court throughout the week. Attorneys also called several witnesses to the stand for testimony and cross-examination, including investigators and officials present at the shooting. Graff viewed surveillance footage that prosecutors said showed Robinson fleeing the scene and various angles of Kirk's shooting. One of the most notable pieces of evidence presented was a recorded interview with Robinson's former roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs. Attorneys played the recording in court where Twiggs described Robinson's behavior before and after the shooting. Robinson tearfully told him that he regretted carrying out the crime the day after the shooting, Twiggs testified. That's according to what Lance Twiggs says. And Robinson hasn't admitted this at all, by the way. Robinson's defense team also repeatedly questioned the validity of the DNA evidence collected from the rifle used in the assassination, I would put that in quotes, and voiced doubt over the ballistic testing of the bullet recovered from Kirk's body. Will the evidence be made public? It remains unclear how much evidence will be released to the public. Evidence presented during the live-streamed hearing remained hidden from public view, only observable by Graff, attorneys, and witnesses being questioned. The Kirk family attorney petitioned Graff to let the Kirk family see the evidence, arguing the family had a right to view the evidence under state law. The judge declined the family's request. That's odd, huh? The court hit a snag on Thursday when a non-public piece of evidence, a letter allegedly written by Robinson to Twiggs, briefly appeared on camera. Graff chided media and prosecutors for the error on Friday and barred media from broadcasting images presented by either party for the remainder of the day. So what happens next? The hearing will resume on September 1st when both sides are scheduled to present their final arguments on whether Robinson should be tried for the crime. Graff is then expected to determine whether prosecutors presented sufficient evidence for a trial to proceed. So it sounds like they have enough evidence that I think that they will proceed. I think they'll at least get that far. Now, will there be some sort of plea deal where he admits guilt but take the death sentence off of the table and don't go to trial sort of thing? And then therefore, whatever evidence that was presented that they're keeping now from the family is put under wraps. We won't see it. That is a real possibility, I think. So it remains to be seen. We have to wait a little while yet, I guess, before we know anything further on this. But yeah, the whole thing is just really odd. And let's go back to this Daily Crow article. There's some interesting things on here that I wanted to mention. Yeah, okay. So yeah, they're showing the supposed very similar, meme type of thing. Tyler Robinson shooting video showing Jack Posobiec holding the similar binder, just like they did with Bondi and the Epstein report that supposedly was going to reveal everything, and it turned out to be nothing. So, Benny Johnson, well-known podcaster, I'm sure all you guys know who he is, said eventually this footage will be shown to the public regarding a very deceptive tweet about the UVU security footage shown during Tyler's hearing today. This is a manipulation tactic that we can call trust now, forget later. The very few pieces of exclusive footage shown today, this was on Friday, were 0% more indicting than we've already seen when it comes to connecting the faraway figure on video to Tyler Robinson. Go ahead and save Benny's tweet. It will age horribly. He said, remember, he said this. Eventually, this footage will be shown to the public. And he did come out with a 9 or 10 minute video detailing. I was looking to see if there was a tweet as well. I guess not. There might have been, but it's not on this page. Detailing in the video that he saw this thing and it fully showed the gun being, picked up essentially and shot, and Charlie going down, and it was a 4K video, and all this stuff's going to be eventually shown to the public and so forth. That's what Benny Johnson said. So this person, Billy Webb, said, yeah, this trust now, forget later thing, and Benny's tweet and I guess video too will age horribly. This other person, Brandy, who was there, she said, I was in the courtroom today. There is no high quality zoomed in footage showing anyone taking a shot. The video shown is the same distance as the footage of Tyler, quote unquote, Tyler, jumping off the roof shown in this screenshot. I have no idea why people are claiming otherwise. They know the video isn't going to be released publicly, so they're misrepresenting what was actually shown in court, meaning Benny Johnson. And apparently the courtroom was stacked full of other TPUSA people that day. So they could, I guess, get the narrative out there that there's all this other video that, once it becomes public, it will make it obvious that Tyler was the shooter and so on and so forth. But they're saying right here that it doesn't seem like this video footage will ever be shown publicly. So, it says new courtroom video allegedly shows Charlie Kirk's killer taking the shot. Here's a link to a redstate.com article about that. Jack Pozobic said, and you see everything. You see everything. He climbs over. He assembles the gun. He runs over to the edge, gets down in a prone position. And you see the time. We all know what time, and it was like so slow. Just watching those seconds, click, click, click. And then you see him take the shot. And then it says they are selling Tyler is guilty, then they are going to kill him before the trial. That is what the person who writes the articles for this website is saying. They're selling that Tyler is guilty, and then they're going to kill him before the trial. That could be what happens. The judge and prosecution both admitted there is no high-quality video footage of the shooting. Yet, all of the propagandists are outright telling you that there was. All Zionists/MAGA paid influencers are saying the same thing. Israel/Mossad/CIA are on trial. Very few people genuinely believe Tyler Robinson shot Charlie. Only sub 100 IQs and paid shills. Let's talk about Rick Triggerman Cutler. 6 years Army, 30 years Irving Police Department, runs an NGO in Guatemala. Rick volunteered for this one event. His contact, Brian Harple. Brian Harple flew in to Dallas-Fort Worth early the morning of 9/8/25 and wasn't scheduled to depart Dallas-Fort Worth until 1:45 on 9/9. So again, pointing back to that Harple had something to do with it. Who knows if he did? But that is a separate ex-post here about that other sort of rabbit hole to go down. Rick Triggerman Cutler. But anyway, I do find it interesting that the Zionist/MAGA paid influencers are all saying the same thing about this. And they definitely want to build the narrative that Tyler is guilty. Now, here's what I think. I think Tyler may have very well taken a shot. He may have gotten up on the roof. He may have had a gun. It probably wasn't the gun that was found in the little wooded area that we were all told that it was probably, I'm guessing, a gun that either he was given or that he had access to that we may not know about, perhaps with blanks installed. I don't know. I personally think Tyler Robinson may very well think that he did it. He may think, just based on what I heard from Lance Twiggs' testimony, he may think that he actually took the shot, when in fact, one of the things that has come out during this preliminary trial was that there was another bullet found, an unused bullet that was found on a rooftop on a different building, not at the Losi Center, which is where Tyler Robinson ostensibly was. And that's debatable whether that's even him in the video footage. All of this stuff is really debatable. It's not really a lock on the fact that was him climbing the stairs, that was him with the gun in his pant leg and walking stiff and all that stuff. It was, not really very clear footage, and Lance Twiggs said himself that he couldn't verify for sure that was him. Anyways, the point is, though, they did find another bullet, and Ian Carroll pointed out on a video that he published today on his channel that the bullet that was found was on a building directly behind the Losi Center, which is where Tyler supposedly took the shot. So why would you have a bullet on a building, on a rooftop, behind and above where Robinson supposedly was? Well, possibly it fell out of someone's pocket who was watching Tyler. Perhaps it was all of the hand signals. Remember all of the people with the hand signals, the various hand signals that seemed to be being given right around Charlie. Perhaps they had to time it using hand signals. They had to time the shot of the bullet from Tyler Robinson's gun, which was most likely a blank, with the exploding microphone, because they had to have one shot. It couldn't be a bullet that was a live round and then take the chance on him actually killing somebody. If they set him up as a trans shooter by using an MK Ultra type of situation, whatever it is, both Twiggs and Tyler Robinson seem heavily programmed to me. Of course, I don't know anything about any of it. I'm just saying what I observe. They seem heavily programmed, and there's a good chance that Tyler was set up as a shooter and that they were supposed to take him out in a gunfight or in a some sort of a police firefight, and that's not what happened for whatever reason. So anyway, Tyler lived. If he took a shot, it was likely a missed shot or a blank, and then they just hit the exploding mic button when they were ready to. And that evidence that it was an exploding mic seems to be building more and more and more, because now you have all of the fragments of the actual glass and plastic from the Rode microphone that Charlie was wearing, the two different packs that he had on his person under his shirt. You never put a microphone, I'm an audio professional, you never put a microphone under someone's shirt. You get the weird rubbing sound the whole time. That would never work for any audio situation ever. You always put the mic on the outside. Well, he had the mic on the inside of his shirt plus another pack as well. And there were some photos that Baron Coleman has put out detailing the burn or the inverse burn area on Charlie's chest, where there was a blank area where there was no burn, and then there was other areas of his chest that looked like had been scorched. So personally, I think they set up Tyler Robinson. They were going to kill him. He didn't end up getting killed. They set him up as a shooter. He believes he actually shot Charlie, probably because he really did take a shot. And it was the exploding microphone, though, that did it. And I still go back to what I said before about the exploding microphone. The building that exploded, the multiple buildings that exploded in Tennessee exactly 1 month later to the day, could be where they assembled an exploding microphone. And it's a good way to take out all of the evidence and the people who did it, if they were indeed hired to do a shaped charge. So that's what I think happened. Personally, take it for what it's worth. I don't know anything about it other than what people are saying and what Baron Coleman has been reporting on, what Candace Owens has been reporting on. There's a lot there, and I know you guys are following it as well. But I think that they may have him convinced that he actually was the killer, when in fact, maybe he was a shooter, but not necessarily the guy that was responsible for his death. I have no idea. But if they take him out, then the world will never know, will it? Anyway, not sure how interesting or helpful that is, but I just wanted to impart that information. I felt like that was, it sort of hit me as I've been watching all this stuff, that's probably what's going on. But we'll see. Or then again, we may never know. AJ Live, Israel expands borders for protection against Iran, yet works to foil Trump's Iran peace plan, eyes future conflict with Turkey. Yeah, they're already looking at the next war or two. They want their ongoing conflict with Lebanon. They're blowing it to smithereens as well. The land captured in Israel's conquest is intended to become part of the Greater Israel Project, according to the AP. Over the past 2.5 years, Israel has taken control of swaths of Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria that amount to its biggest expansion of military-occupied lands in decades, the AP said. Sounds like the AP is very anti-Semitic at this point. They said that on June 18th, it is an area larger than many major cities, roughly 1,000 square kilometers, which is 386 square miles. And Israel said it had plans to stay indefinitely. That means we're keeping everything we take. Netanyahu recently vowed to maintain its occupational forces within the borders of its neighbors, Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. The Jewish state is also eyeing the prospect of conquest against NATO member Turkey, meaning they want to send America to go fight their battle for them. It also recently began to fortify its border with Jordan to counter the Iranian threat. Anyway, yep, that's it. It's all Israel's property. Everything. It sure is, and don't you forget it. All right, I came across this one. You guys probably know who Tom Renz is. He has a really good Substack. He's an attorney in Ohio, I think. Will the FDA radiate wheat with enough radiation to instantly kill a person? This week, the FDA received a petition for a, quote, food additive. When most people think of food additives, they think of things like sugar substitutes or preservatives. It goes without saying that most food additives are unhealthy, but in this case, the FDA, the Fraud and Death Administration, I'm adding that, is being asked to take it to a whole new level. This week, Sterigenics, that's the company, asked the FDA to allow them to radiate wheat, that's right, radiation, with 30 kilogray, K-I-L-O gray, G-R-A-Y, kilogray of radiation. And that doesn't sound good. 30 kilogray of radiation. That amount of radiation would kill a human instantly. And the FDA is being asked to consider allowing this, and they are asking them to allow it by calling the radiation a food additive. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. That's what this show is reporting on. Isn't that crazy? A food additive, i.e. radiation. Here's the relevant section of the petition. Under Section 409B5 of the FDA Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act, 21 U.S.C. 348B5, we are giving notice that we have filed a food additive petition submitted on behalf of Sterigenics U.S. LLC by the Burdock Group in Orlando, Florida. The petition proposes that we amend our food additive regulations in 179.26, ionizing radiation for the treatment of food, quote unquote, to provide for the safe use of ionizing radiation for the reduction of pathogens in raw enriched wheat flour at a level not to exceed 30 kilogray. Little k, big G, Y. That's the unit of measurement, 30 kilogray. And then here's the full page. This is on the Federal Register. So here's the full thing. Food additive petition was filed on June 5th this year. So just kind of reading it onto the record here. So Sterigenics wants the FDA to approve radiation as a food additive, meaning something you are adding to the food. This is an admission that this company wants to use radiation to change your food. Seriously. The relevant regulation is highlighted below. Approval of the food additive petition, establishment, or amendment of a regulation for a food substance as GRAS under the conditions of its intended use for humans or animals under parts 182, 184, 186, 582, or 584 of this chapter, the granting of a request for the exemption from regulation as a food additive. And it goes on and continues with the chapter and verse. Isn't that crazy? It may or may not shock you to know that much of our food and many of our vitamins and supplements that we take to be healthy, in quotes, are already radiated. Food radiation is used fairly commonly, but it's typically on ingredients. The way to know if your food has been irradiated is to look for this symbol on the packaging. So if it's got the green, wonderful flower, that means it's been irradiated. Yep, everything's always the opposite, isn't it? The symbol is helpful, but as noted, the FDA has decided that you do not need to display the label on whole foods, quote unquote, only specific ingredients. I'm looking to see how much 30 kilogray is. Talks about the labeling here. He's got a lot on here. Okay, so in summary, 30,000 grays, 30 kilogray, would cause instant death many times over in a human. That means that the radiation is going to do a lot of alterations to your food. Does anyone think that exposing our food to enough radiation to cause instant cellular molecular destruction and instant death in a human is a good idea? Does anyone really want to eat food like that? And is it okay that our FDA won't even make these companies label this radiated food? And he says the war on Maha continues. Yeah, Maha does not exist, if you ask me. Anyway, I thought that was worth reporting because, you know, it's one of those things that they just slip in and the mainstream media doesn't bother reporting on. Because why would they? Did you know World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab finds a spying device in his home? He didn't like that too much, I guess. Oh, Klaus. This is almost ironic. Notorious globalist Klaus Schwab, who founded the World Economic Forum, I would say with the help and at the behest of King Charles III, says that a listening device was recently uncovered in his home office. We don't know why or how long it was there or who planted it. But Schwab has filed a criminal complaint, and Swiss authorities are currently investigating the matter. Mario Nafal on X broke down the details. Klaus Schwab, founder of the WEF, found a bug in his home office. You will eat the bugs. No, not that kind. The 88-year-old who built Davos into the world's elite talking shop says the device turned up during a routine sweep of his Geneva home next to World Economic Forum's own headquarters. Okay. He's filed a complaint against persons unknown. So now Swiss prosecutors get to work out who was listening and for how long. The timing is the fun part. This is the same Schwab who quit in 2025 under a whistleblower cloud and then sued the whistleblowers before a board inquiry waved him through clean. 50 years pulling the world's most powerful into one room, and now he's the one who says someone was listening in. Okay, and then it says a device was found after routine inspection was conducted in his private home in Geneva, close to the WEF premises, according to an emailed statement from a spokesperson for Schwab. Initial assessment suggested that the device had been installed within the last 3 years. The statement said, an investigation is now underway with the goal to identify people responsible for its installation. They don't say what it is or what it looked like or anything. The matter is especially sensitive given the significant public interest surrounding him during the period in question. At this stage, no conclusions are being drawn regarding the origin of the device or potential responsibility. Accusation adds another twist to Schwab's high-profile departure and spat with the institution that he founded. I don't know. There's quite a bit here actually on this. But you get the idea. That is on a website called WLT Report. Yeah, very strange. Explosions rock Damascus as French President Macron visits Syria. 18 people injured. Macron's office says he's safe, and his visit to Syria will continue as scheduled. So this is from 4 or 5 days ago now, but it says smoke and fire rises at the site where explosive devices blew up near a hotel where Macron was believed to be staying in Damascus. 2 bombs exploded on Tuesday near a hotel in Damascus where Macron spent the night, wounding 18 people and overshadowing the first visit to Syria by an EU head of state since Bashar al-Assad was toppled. Well, I wonder if it was a pager. So this head chopper guy that's running Syria now and Macron have both been pretty, anti, I don't know if you could say anti-Israel, but anti-Israel or anti-Israel expansion, Israeli expansion. Maybe it's just a little party gift for him. The explosion, I mean. I don't know. Doesn't say if it was a pager, though. Probably wasn't. But they do like their explosions, don't they? Okay, here's the Four Seasons Hotel in Damascus, down the road from Presidential Palace, in Syria. Well, southwestern Syria, that's where Damascus is. Yeah, deadly bombing last week, so on and so forth. But you shouldn't really go against Israel. I think it's probably a message, but maybe I'm wrong. But it is interesting about Syria, isn't it? All right, technocracy.news. Got a couple articles from there tonight. World's largest AI data center project on verge of collapse. That is good news, isn't it? Hear the giant sucking sound going into the black hole. Citizen resistance is rising into a firestorm across the country, like a crown fire in a forest's treetops. Takes on a life of its own. AI executives are freaking out. Investors are at risk of losing billions. Citizens will be left with the hubris of collapsed communities and abandoned behemoth buildings that won't be torn down. Technocrats are about to get a dose of reality. I hope that's the case. It says in a significant setback for one of the most ambitious AI infrastructure projects in the U.S., Blackstone-backed QTS Realty Trust has decided to abandon its portion of the Prince William Digital Gateway in Northern Virginia's Prince William County. The move comes just days after Bloomberg reported the decision on July 2nd, marking the effective end of plans for what was envisioned as the world's largest data center campus. The sprawling project spanning roughly 2,100 acres, with QTS targeting more than 800 acres, was planned for up to 37 data center buildings across approximately 22 million square feet. It sat on the edge of the historic Manassas National Battlefield and near protected lands, promising massive economic activity, but facing intense local resistance. Wow. Here's Manassas Battlefield, and here is where it would sit. Right on top of it, almost. I'm looking to see why it's not going to happen, supposedly. The collapse of the Prince William Digital Gateway is a high-profile casualty of legal technicalities. Fierce local opposition. How about that? So they have people who oppose stuff in Virginia. I didn't know that. And infrastructure bottlenecks, not a Blackstone-specific failure. It exemplifies systemic pressures on the AI data center boom. Rapid demand colliding with slow grid build-out, rising community resistance, and economic realities of delays. While not the death knell for AI infrastructure, it signals that the easy phase of unchecked expansion is ending. That's good news. I hope that's true. Investors and developers must navigate higher hurdles with greater discipline. Consumers may face higher energy costs in the near term, but could benefit from more sustainable, community-accepted development long term. The energy transition and digital transformation remain intertwined. Power availability will increasingly dictate which AI dreams become reality. That's good news, actually. In the AI data center wars. Okay, next one on same site. Signal Trace just weaponized your AirPods with license plate readers nationwide. Just like flock cameras ran ahead of regulators' ability to contain them, so has Leonardo launched a Dragnet product to scan all Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signals in real time, attaching the result to flock cameras taking pictures of your license plate. There are no laws against this to slow or stop its spread. Leonardo DRS is a defense contractor whose website says, quote, "These cutting-edge sensing systems provide targeting, surveillance, and protection capabilities based on our advanced electro-optical, infrared, electronic warfare, and tactical radar systems," end quote. A startup called Signal Trace has built a product that turns ordinary license plate readers into something far more invasive, a system that identifies not just vehicles, but the specific people inside them by tracking their phones, AirPods, and smartwatches. The capability is straightforward and chilling. Signal Trace links devices that regularly travel together, correlating them to license plates. When your iPhone, AirPods, and smartwatch move as a cluster inside of a vehicle, the system learns to recognize that pattern. The next time any of those devices passes a license plate reader, whether at a toll booth or a traffic camera or a police checkpoint, the infrastructure doesn't just log a plate number, it logs you. You get it? Do you understand that? This is not a theoretical concern. Signal Trace is actively marketing this as a surveillance product designed to sweep up Bluetooth and other wireless data and add it to existing license plate reader networks. The company is positioning itself as a bridge between the fragmented world of traffic cameras and the intimate data ecosystems living in your pocket. This makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully it does to you guys as well. You've got AirPods, you've got a cell phone, you've got whatever that has Bluetooth turned on, and you are maybe you have your Bluetooth signal on your phone on, connected to your stereo in your car, so that you're playing music through Bluetooth, no wires. Driving down the road, and you drive past a flock camera set, a set of them. They're always in clusters. It picks up your license plate. And as you're driving by, it also picks up the Bluetooth signal. That Bluetooth signal then of your different devices in your car, your AirPods, your phone, your iPad, whatever it is that you've got where you've got Bluetooth turned on, gets bundled to your license plate. So now they know not only your license plate and have your face on the camera as you drive by, but now they have the data inside your car as well. And then there's more about how it all works here. And one of the full story links here is to Cambridge Analytica, which is a company that's been in the news over the years as well. Anyway, pretty wild, huh? I didn't know if you guys knew about that one. That was news to me. I didn't actually. All right, well, the obligatory airline or plane story. I have to have one of those. Seems like we do every week. We don't always, but it sure seems like it. Ryanair's passenger's head and shoulders hang out from window that was broken after he was nearly sucked out of the plane. That would not be a good way to go, would it? Get sucked through a tiny little window. Luckily, the people on the plane, though, jumped into action and did hold on to him. Says they only later found out that piece of the plane's engine had broken off and struck the window, causing it to shatter. So that's what had happened. We immediately realized there had been a decompression. There were screams. For a moment, I thought someone had accidentally opened the emergency door, a passenger said. The masks dropped. There was a strong smell. The head and shoulders of one passenger were outside the window. Fortunately, he hadn't taken off his seatbelt. So there you go. Always wear your seatbelt. It's a good lesson. The passenger was restrained by fellow travelers. The president of Pan-Hellenic Federation of Public Hospital Employees in Greece told reporters. His wife held him down for 5 minutes so he wouldn't get out. So yet another airplane incident. I don't know. It's crazy. But at least it ended okay. Man, that would have been a bad way to go. Getting shredded by being torn through a window at high speed. Yeah, moments after takeoff. So they had just lifted off. So they were not still on the ground. All right. Anyway. And I know you wanted to report on Jared Kushner in Albania. I'm just joking. Who does? But I came across this one. I thought it was really interesting. A businessman who sold land for Kushner Resort in Albania suspected of faking the deeds. So I'm wondering if what he thought he bought, he actually bought. Isn't that wild? Miami-based businessman wanted in Albania for allegedly laundering drug money is suspected of faking the deeds to land where Jared Kushner wants to build a multi-billion-dollar resort. The country's organized crime-fighting agency said in case files reviewed by Reuters. The businessman, Artur Shehu, denies all accusations against him, said his lawyer, who confirmed the Albanian prosecutors had issued a warrant seeking Shehu's arrest for laundering money for drug gangs. Wow. The case files accuse Shehu and associates of trafficking South American cocaine into European ports and laundering the funds by using them to establish a real estate empire, including with falsified land ownership documents. It says nothing has been alleged regarding Mr. Shehu's character is true. He is neither a drug trafficker nor a forger of property documents. Of course not. He's 100% completely innocent, of course. Which is why he's probably working with Jared Kushner. I'm looking to see if they actually did have some sort of deal. In April, Shehu sold the strip of pristine Albanian coastline for the planned resort to Albania Land Development, a company which is owned by the Kushner-backed project developers, Sazan Real Estate Development, and other investors. Oh, okay. So he was involved, yeah. Reasonable suspicions are formed based on evidence that the above-mentioned assets were acquired through the use of forged documents, prosecutors wrote in case files. The files make no allegation of wrongdoing against Kushner, Sazan Real Estate Development, Albania Land Development, or other investors in the resort project. Yeah, I don't think that's really the question. It's not really that they were doing this. It was that they may have they thought they bought land from this guy. Suspected of faking deeds. So who knows? Maybe this whole thing will just fall through. I mean, they had a lot of protesters. I think they still are having a lot of protesters in Albania that do not want this to go through. Rightfully so. Anyway, I thought that was odd. That's a Yahoo News article. Then this one from Radar. Trump's eerie warning. Prez declares 1,000 missiles are aimed at Iran. Should rogue nation attempt to assassinate him? That is music to Israel's ears. Music to Israel's ears. Donald Trump has issued a stark warning to Iran should the enemy nation try to assassinate him. The enemy nation. It's too bad he doesn't know who the enemy nation actually is, if you catch my drift. President threatened that there are 1,000 missiles already locked and loaded and targeted at the Islamic Republic should they or anyone else attempt to follow through on recent reports of a planned assassination. Yeah, well, I guess they got Lindsay, didn't they? Well, maybe not. Watch. Iranian media celebrates death of Graham. Iranian media is celebrating the death of Senator Lindsey Graham, who is reported to have died of a brief and sudden illness on Saturday night. The precise circumstances of Graham's death are still unclear. So AJ was saying, at least earlier, that he suspects that it was not at all as we're being told with the heart attack and so forth. And I have no idea, but I'm just saying that's what he's saying. And that it could be that he was involved in the explosions, not so much the drone facility, but the hotel nearby where he was staying. And that he was taken out by a Russian missile attack, essentially. And so I don't know. Al-Qaeda's number one sugar daddy, Senator Lindsey Graham, died last night. We are compiling a detailed report exposing his crimes against humanity. And there were a lot. They were many. So I'm looking to see if there's any new details on this. Larry Loomer posted, did Russia just poison Lindsey Graham? It's always Russia's fault. There seriously needs to be an investigation. Russia just sent a delegation to Khamenei's funeral in Tehran, where the IRGC and funeral organizers was calling for myself, President Trump, and Graham to be assassinated. Mentioned that earlier. Yeah, so I guess, maybe some more information will come out about this bit by bit. But, yeah, it's a wild one. Here's a Politico article. People are already vying for his position. Nancy Mace considering running for Graham's Senate seat. She came up short in South Carolina's GOP primary for governor earlier this year. Yeah, I'm not sure if she's still in Congress. She might be. Firebrand conservative Rep. Nancy Mace is eyeing a bid for Senate to fill the vacancy left by Lindsey Graham's sudden death. According to two people familiar with her thinking, granted an anonymity was to detail private discussions. The outgoing House member, she's outgoing. The outgoing House member plans to begin polling for her exploratory bid. This week, the two people said she still has money in her federal campaign account from her past runs for Congress. Mace is set to vacate her coastal House seat early next year, having given up her post to unsuccessfully run for governor this year. Her political future was uncertain following her fifth place finish in that primary. That's not good. But the newly opened seat offers her a lifeline to extend her tenure in Washington. This would not be her first time running for Senate. Mace mounted a long-shot primary bid against Graham in 2014, but came in a distant fifth place. Yeah, I don't know how Lindsey Graham kept winning over and over and over again. Since 2002, I think is what I saw. It says Mace may face strong resistance from Trump, who she clashed with by fighting for the release of the Epstein files. Trump made clear that he did not want her to win that gubernatorial run when she endorsed a rival in that primary. Well, the real question is, will Israel let her win a senatorship? And I would say the answer to that is most likely no, but I have no idea. So if she is not sufficiently pro-Israel, she can basically forget it, because it's not happening. Israel runs it all. All right. Children's Health Defense article, RFK Jr. to create COVID vaccine injury table. Will more people finally be compensated for injuries? Is that a trick question? HHS plans to propose a rule in November establishing a former injury table, quote unquote, for COVID-19 vaccines. The proposal would undergo a public comment period expected to run into early 2027, if you live that long. I'm adding that. Before any final rule could take effect. Under the PrEP Act, HHS was legally required to create the table, but never did. In May, attorney Ray Flores sued the agency to compel it to create the table. I like how they pass these laws and these agencies have to do this and they have to do that, and they just completely ignore it and don't do anything that they're supposed to do. Or they do the opposite of what they're supposed to do. RFK Jr. is preparing to launch a rulemaking process that could make it much easier for people injured by COVID-19 vaccines to receive compensation from the federal government, marking one of the most consequential changes yet to the vaccine injury program. According to the federal regulatory agenda, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services plans to propose a rule in November that would establish a formal injury table for the CV-19 VAXXs. The proposal would undergo a public comment period expected to run into early 2027. Yeah, I don't know that RFK Jr. is still going to be there. So maybe this is one of the parting things that he will do. I don't know. I've heard rumors that he will be stepping down, although who knows? More than 1.5 million reports of COVID-19 vaccine adverse events filed through the VAERS system don't qualify for compensation through the federal CICP because the program covers only deaths and injuries meeting the government's definition of serious physical injury, quote unquote. So there you go. You have to meet the government's definition of serious physical injury. So basically you have to meet that for an injury, or you have to be dead. And I'm not really sure if you're already dead how collecting some money might help, but perhaps it would to your heirs. Maybe that's how that works. Anyway, pretty cuckoo. RT says Lindsey Graham was a monster, but not exceptional. Normal people would be ashamed to be seen with him, dead or alive. Western elites are boasting of how close to him that they were. Yeah, they did. The people in Washington really liked to hang out with him. I'm sure he was a load of fun. Lindsey Graham is dead, and if we were to apply the old Spartan and then Roman adage about the dead, nothing but the good, then this is where the text would have to end. Some readers may find this shocking or unkind, but it is a fact that there is no way to write about the intriguingly sudden end to the long-term U.S. Senator from South Carolina in a balanced manner and stay honest. Graham was an almost cartoonishly evil man, and since he was also very powerful, his moral depravity made a big difference to the lives of all too many. Downplaying that fact out of misplaced piety would be perverse. It would mean to disrespect the many victims of pestiferous and brutal U.S. and in fact Israeli policies of vicious violence and outrageous injustice that Graham promoted with every fiber of his being for his whole political life. During the Gaza genocide, when challenged specifically about the Israeli mass killings of civilians, including women and children, Graham launched into what can only be called a psychopathic rant, comparing the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians with American warfare against Germany and in Japan in World War II. An intriguing comparison in and of itself, but that is another matter. And drawing the conclusion that Gaza should be flattened, including with nuclear weapons. Gaza has been flattened. And to this dying day, Graham never showed an ounce of compassion for those slaughtered by his Israeli friends and did everything he could to support that slaughter. Yeah. That is, of course, also why internationally wanted war criminal, really genocidaire, Benjamin Netanyahu rushed to offer his public condolences. He was a monster, certainly. Let's take a little break here and see what they have on Not the Bee. Doom break, as we call it. Oh, yes. You guys see the guy get smashed by a Yellowstone bison? Yeah, this is not ideal if you're this poor guy. Former combat photographer gets high-def video of Yellowstone bison playing tag with Grandpa, and guess what? Grandpa lost. Yeah, Grandpa's problem was he was a little too slow. This is where definitely, if you're going to go mess around in Yellowstone and hang out with the bison, this is where it definitely pays to maybe work out a little bit beforehand. So here's our footage. Here, I suppose we should watch this in full screen. So let's do that. I mean, you can't miss the guy go flying through the air. He was hurt, although he wasn't killed. It looked to me like, see, there's the guy here. Here he is with his grandkid. I can't tell if it's a girl or boy. He's just rolling around here in the grass, and they're trying to keep their distance. They really are. They're not taunting him or doing anything wrong at all, I might add. Kind of goes after the truck. Maybe the truck made him mad. I don't know. But there he goes. He just takes off and tries to go play hide and seek with him through the trees. I don't know where the kid went. The kid could easily have gotten trampled too, but I guess he didn't. He's probably pretty fast. And there's the bison playing with the tree, and then finds Grandpa, plays hide and seek with him, and watch out, here it comes. Boom! Oh my gosh. Poor guy. So he was injured. I don't know how badly. But at least he didn't keep going and like stomp him or something. So there was your bison video for the day. That's not a good way to go. Grandpa did lose on that one. Bison look slow and clumsy, but by golly, those suckers are fast. Yeah, and they're big too. Looking to see what happened with Grandpa. Yeah, Grandpa and grandson. Oblivious to the danger. I don't know that they were oblivious to the danger. That's just what this says. They look like they were keeping their distance. Then he goes after them. When the bison tossed the man with its left horn, he landed hard. The bison then stood over his body, shaking its head angrily. McLeod ran and yelled at the bison with the help of a few other brave souls, and their combined effort scared the beast off. Bystanders quickly checked the tossed Grandpa for injuries. Aside from being bruised and sore, he seemed to have avoided any puncture wounds or broken bones. That's amazing. So maybe he was in better shape than I thought. EMTs quickly arrived and took the man away for medical evaluation. His condition has not been disclosed, but no news is good news in this case. Yeah, so here is the here's the new meme, new warning sign at Yosemite. That's actually a good one. That could work. Luckily, he's got the suspenders on. So anyway, yep, there's your doom break. Good old bison. You guys ever been to Yellowstone? I've never been there. I would like to go someday. I've been to Yosemite, but not to Yellowstone. Been to Yosemite actually a couple times. Even climbed with one of my buddies, climbed Half Dome. You guys know about Half Dome at Yosemite? We didn't climb the front straight up. We climbed around back. But yeah, it still takes basically 2 days to do it all. And the last quarter mile, pretty much the last, I would say at least 1/4 of a mile is basically straight up. And you're holding on to ropes and pulling yourself up by bit. And this was I did this in my 20s. So that was my fond memories of Yosemite. Yosemite's great though. It's so beautiful. All right, what else do we have here on Not the Bee? Report, sniffing chocolate increases reps at the gym. I don't think I'm going to try that. You're not supposed to sniff chocolate anyway. Maybe it makes you want to eat it, so therefore you have a boost of energy. Oh, yes, I did see this one. Look at this one. I did know about this from an earlier post, well, a different post on something I found this afternoon. Watch as 900 venomous snakes work together to escape the floodwaters that hit their breeding facility in China. Watch, hundreds of snakes, including deadly cobras, escape a snake farm amid floods in China. There's been a lot of floods in China. Yeah, new fear unlocked. If you don't like snakes, then you won't like this. Look at all of them. It's amazing how they They look like little tiny Loch Ness monsters. They keep their heads way above the water. Look at them. Hundreds of snakes, including deadly cobras. And I'm not sure what else. Yeah, those suckers are working together. There's one right there. Chinese authorities are warning residents of Hangzhou to watch out for these cobras, kraits, and green pit vipers that were freed from a local breeding facility after it was wiped out by a collapsing dam during Typhoon Mayask. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? That's right. Here's the Loch Ness snakes. That's pretty amazing. I didn't know they did that. Stuck their heads way out of the water. There have been other local videos shared too. Most of the people wrangling the little beasties. Steve Irwin style. Wow. Warning. Crazy Chinese men. Oh, we got to see this. A venomous gangzai snake tried to evade everyone and escape, but in the end it was cornered and caught. He is not being too careful. If that's a venomous snake, he's not being too careful just swinging it around like that. I don't speak Chinese, but you can kind of understand what's going on there with all of the shrieks. Needless to say, not everyone made it through their snake encounters without injury. Local doctor who treats snakebite patients told the paper that he treated several villagers since the typhoon hit the region. Separately, Beijing News reported that a snakebite victim had died, citing confirmation from a local hospital and witnesses. If they only lost one person, that would be amazing. Because that what did it say? 900 snakes? 900 venomous snakes. Wow. All right. It's a crazy world, isn't it? Let's look at some Substacks. We have Liberty Sentinel Substacks, one that I've been including in the list of other people's Substacks. Alex Newman does good work. Texas mandates Bible in school, critics freak out. The Texas Board of Education's decision to incorporate biblical passages into K through 12 classrooms has ignited a fierce debate over faith, history, and the role of religion in public education. Students in Texas public schools will soon be learning from the Holy Bible under a new policy that was adopted by the State Board of Education late last month. But more than a few teachers are vowing to resist. See, I told you, when I read this a couple weeks ago on the show, I said there are going to be teachers who refuse to teach it, for sure. The move by Texas education policymakers approved in a 9-5 vote on June 26th adds numerous biblical texts to the required reading list for grades K through 12, set to phase in starting in 2030. Okay. So we're not even starting for 4 years. That makes sense. This includes stories like Noah's Ark for first graders, David and Goliath for second graders, Daniel and the Lion's Den, the Exodus, the Beatitudes, and passages from Genesis, Psalms, and the Sermon on the Mount. Alongside biblical texts, students will also read classics by Shakespeare, Dickens, and others. But I guess that's probably okay, just not the Bible. You can't have that. These timeless works, including biblical passages, have shaped American culture and history and have influenced generations of thinkers, leaders, and citizens, and they continue to offer valuable lessons about human nature, virtue, liberty, and civic responsibility, explained Senior Fellow Mandy Drogan with the conservative-leaning Texas Public Policy Foundation. Critics, by contrast, were outraged that the Bible would be read by students without similar time for Islam, paganism, and other religious texts. Yeah, don't forget witchcraft. Gonna have that in there. Satanism. So they want all religions because they're all equal. They're all the same. None's better than any others. And You got the people out there that think Jesus never really existed and all this other crazy nonsense. Anyways, there is a little bit more here on Liberty Sentinel on their Substack post. And again, we'll link to that in the Tuesday's Substack post when I send this out. Epstein class mourns after bloodthirsty warmonger Lindsey Graham dies of brief and sudden illness, or was he killed? I'm not with you, I'm with Israel until my dying day, he said. This is on the Wine Press. Again, the ambassador to Israel. I mean, Huckabee is too. He's the Israeli ambassador to Israel, but Graham was the South Carolina ambassador to Israel, I guess. This morning, it was announced that longtime South Carolina GOP Senator Graham has reportedly died of a brief and sudden illness, as is being reported. One of the mainstream headlines say that most of the mainstream media headlines say the same thing. Yeah, U.S. Senator and close Trump ally Lindsey Graham dies after, quote, brief and sudden illness. They pretty much all do say the same thing. NBC, Guardian, New York Times, CBS, BBC, Fox News. They're not all using the same photo, but more or less the same headline. And then mentioned what his office stated and what Trump stated. I'm looking to see if it gets into was he murdered. Let's see what else is being said here. Bibi was heartbroken over the news, as he articulated in several posts on social media. Lindsey understood the security of Israel and America are inseparable. Is that right? Did he really? I don't think he cared about the security of America whatsoever. I never got that impression. Never heard him say that. I already miss you, my friend, he said. Oh, I'm sure Lady G is plenty busy wherever he is. He probably has lots to do. Lots of posts here from X, screenshots. But I'm looking to see if the author of the Wine Press Substack here gets into what else could have happened. It's well known that Lindsey Graham is gay. Trump ally testifies in deposition. I was under oath. I couldn't lie, she later explained. Just to cite a few examples, in 2024, amidst the carnage in North and South Carolina following Hurricane Helene, Graham went on Fox News and said, quote, I've been going all over South Carolina. Like most people, I haven't slept much, but look at what's going on in Israel. We have to help our friends and keep the war over there from coming here. So he instantly changed the subject away from the hurricane and over to Israel. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel until my dying day, he said on Fox News. Well, he got his wish. That's right. His dying day was yesterday. And these are just some of the things this wicked man would spew on a fairly regular basis. Even before he died, he was just recently making round-trip agreements to ensure that the war in Ukraine continues in perpetuity. Lindsey Graham's last 48 hours. July 10th, Kiev meeting. That would be Friday. Return to D.C., July 11th, sudden illness call. And Trump says he spoke to him, I think, right after he got back. So I don't know if that's true or not, and I don't tend to believe anything he says. But it is odd. If he really did talk to him, then he was back versus still being over there. July 10th through 11th, final hours from Ukraine visit to sudden illness, a look at the final days of the longtime senator, tributes pouring in from across the political spectrum, what he planned to share next, what was Graham preparing to reveal, updates on foreign policy and Ukraine aid he planned to share this week. He wasn't really hiding his thoughts. He loved Ukraine and he sure loved Israel. This has led some people to speculate that Graham was actually taken out or killed for one reason or another. This person on X says, okay, get your tinfoil ready. Graham inspected a drone factory in Ukraine yesterday. Russia blew up that facility today. Then, tonight it's announced that Graham is dead from a sudden illness, quote unquote. No more details. I'd say there's a decent chance that Russia blew up Lindsey Graham. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it is a possibility, but I don't know. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure that there will be all kinds of things coming out in the days and weeks to follow. I think I just said that earlier. As the Epstein class mourns their fallen brother in arms, Proverbs 24:19, fret not thyself because of evil men, neither be thou envious at the wicked, for there shall be no reward to the evil man. The candle of the wicked shall be put out. Proverbs 10:7, the memory of the just is blessed, but the name of the wicked shall rot. Luke 16:23, and in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments. Wow. All in all, Graham was an evil, wicked man whose lights God finally put out. Let him rot and be forgotten. That is words, not my words, but the words of the writer of the Wine Press Substack. So I go back to the cookies. You think you ordered a chocolate chip cookie, but you got a snickerdoodle. Although we just don't know about McConnell either. So anyway, pretty wild. And then one more from Wine Press as well. This is a crazy one. This information just came out last week. EU's obligatory all-time vehicle facial recognition goes into effect. And yeah, it might be the EU, but they're putting this in all cars. I mean, in our cars too, right? In all cars that are being made. It uses infrared cameras pointed at the driver to analyze behavior, tracking eye movement, blinking, where you're looking, and even yawning to spot when your attention drifts. Yeah, they're constantly watching you while you're driving. Beginning this week, all new registered vehicles in the EU must have installed a dash camera or some other looking device that monitors the driver's face at all times. And it is known as the Advanced Driver Distraction Warning System. Of course it is. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's a camera that's watching your every move. Mm-hmm. According to an official news article published on the European Commission's website, European roads are among the safest in the world, but the number of deaths and injuries from road accidents is still too high. Since when do they care about people? That's what I would say. Thanks to the EU's general safety regulation, many safety systems have already been mandatory for all newly registered cars and vans since 2024. Starting on July 7th this year, these vehicles will now be subject to even more advanced safety requirements. All new passenger cars and vans across the EU must now have these life-saving systems. Advanced emergency brake detecting pedestrians and cyclists, advanced driver distraction warning system to keep drivers focused, better forward vision, new tests for worn tires, TYRES, tires, to ensure safer performance, expanded safety glass area to protect pedestrians during accidents. Yeah, we wouldn't want people who are getting run over by cars to have glass shattered and land on them too. Anyway. Yeah, that's what they're doing in the EU, but guess what? It's coming here too. It's just that they're, like all things with tyranny, they're ahead of us, is all. We're not exempt, they're just ahead of us. Speaking of surveillance and Big Brother, in an age of flock surveillance, everyone is a potential criminal, and you're guilty until proven innocent. The dark side of being tagged and tracked in the American surveillance state is finally being exposed. It's not only your privacy being stolen when you get flocked. Just ask Chrisanna Elser. We are suddenly hearing a lot about flock cameras and the dangers of America going down the path of becoming a police surveillance state. Yeah, these cameras are being cut down everywhere now. I don't know if you guys know about this. There's a website here. We'll look at it as soon as we finish with this article. It's called Deflock. And the idea is to pinpoint all of the flock cameras in all areas, at least in the United States. And people are using those maps to go find out where flock cameras are, and they're literally cutting down the pipes, cutting down the posts to hold them up. Which I'm not condoning that, but I'm also not exactly saying that it's a terrible thing either. Think about where that data is all going. This is a topic I've been harping on for years. I'm glad others are joining the refrain and people are starting to wake up. The problem is that much of the reporting in the mainstream corporate media focuses on how cameras are actually a good thing. And when someone gets wrongly charged with a crime, oh, that's just because a single police officer misused the technology. That's a load of bunk. The talking point of police misusing flock cameras comes directly from the company itself. I spent some time today viewing multiple local news reports on a case in the Denver, Colorado area in which a woman was wrongly charged, and below is the most even-handed report I could find explaining exactly what happened to her. This should be everyone's nightmare in the new America with a K. False accusations raise privacy concerns with Flock. So here's the video. Not sure how long it is. Let me check.
My name is Sergeant Jamie Millen.
Yeah, it's 3 minutes, so we may watch this. We'll see. The cop was trying to use Flock cameras and Ring doorbell cameras to coerce Chrisanne Elser to confessing to a crime that she didn't commit. I think you guys have the idea of what's going on here. Again, we'll link to this in Leo Homan Substack post this week in the Substack I sent out on Tuesday. For all of you folks out there who love being spied on by AI cameras, claiming that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about, you need to wake up. That argument assumes not only honest policing, but competent policing. Two things that are not in great supply. The cop in the above video could have been crooked, but more than likely he was just incompetent. More than likely he honestly thought he was prosecuting a solid case against this lady. I don't think he was a dirty cop. More than likely he thought she stole the packages off of the resident's porch, but he had misinterpreted the video evidence and conducted sloppy police work, jumping to conclusions that just weren't there. He was probably inexperienced and overeager, hoping to impress his bosses and eventually get a promotion if he solved enough of these petty theft cases. The most disturbing lesson from this story, and hundreds others like it, is that Chrisanne Elser was deemed guilty until proven innocent. The burden was on her to disprove that she had stolen a package off of somebody's front porch, And lucky for her, she had her own video evidence where she was at the time that they say she was perpetrating the crime. Most people don't have video to document everything that they do in their daily lives, but that's the type of society we're turning into. If you can't prove your innocence by providing a video, you must be guilty of what the surveillance state assumes you were doing or about to do. And they say blanketing cities with AI cameras is a great thing that will keep us safer. They do say that. It's not so great when they make a mistake and lock you up for a crime that you didn't commit. Flock's AI surveillance cameras are now hiding in more than 6,000 American cities and towns, compliments of your city councils. Now it's time for these cameras to start coming down. He said it, I didn't. Let's look at DFlock. We may have done this before. No, I don't remember it. Welcome to DFlock, an open source project mapping license plate readers. 114,000 license plate readers mapped in the U.S., 86 cities rejecting them. Wow. Yeah, and notice what they're, one way that they work. It's not just the plate, it's other attributes that identify your vehicles, like bumper stickers and so on. Looking to see if there's some sort of map or something. I do kind of remember seeing this before. Here, launch the map. Let's have a look. Fetching cameras. Takes a minute for it to all load. Wow, that is a lot of cameras. Flock safety, 94,004. The next closest one is Motorola at 5,500. That is crazy. I'm going to try and zoom in. See if I can find Nashville on here. Yeah. Okay, so here's my area. I'm not going to show you exactly where I am, but this is the general area There's a lot of flock cameras. Yeah, some of these I've seen before, like ones up in here. I've seen them on the posts. So it's not as many as I thought, but there's still an awful lot of them. So I wonder what happens when you click on one here. Let's try. Oh, I see. View OSM. Let's see what that is. So I just randomly clicked on one here. Node number and version number, and then it was added by this person. Public. And where it is, I guess. Which I don't even know where this is. Not exactly. I know the general area, but I see. I was wondering if it showed an actual, like, visual from the camera, but it doesn't. It's just showing where the camera is. Anyways, so you guys can go on dflock.org, click on the map thing, and find cameras around you guys if you want. Man, there's a bunch in, this is Murfreesboro. This is an area, a college town area, where they have a pretty well-known university, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. There's a lot of cameras down there. Clusters of them. Anyway, that's crazy. 677 cameras in view. Oh, when I scroll out, it shows how many cameras there are. 851 just in that view right there. So pretty cool. There's a lot of useful information on here. So you can put your zip code in and it'll probably pull it right up. Anyway, I just wanted to take a look at that. I don't think I ever looked at the map before, but I did look at the homepage once, a long time ago. All right, let's look at this other Substack. Wise Wolf, The Jetsons, George Orwell edition. They're not building city-sized brains to make your shopping list. Yeah, I don't think they are either. A Jetsons future, flying cars, 3-day work weeks, Rosie the robot folding your laundry while you push one button at the sprocket factory and collect a pension. Unfortunately, that isn't going to be the way this plays out. Yeah, Rosie the robot is looking a little mean here. And it's got the Star Wars robotic creatures back there. I forget what they're called. AT-ATs, is that right? AT-ATs. I cannot let it go. I've worked in tech for decades. I have sat in the rooms where the money people talk in when they think nobody normal is listening. I know how these CEOs actually operate and how their long-term plans actually play out. And if you think the future is button-pushing convenience and a weird genetic abomination of a talking dog, boy, are you even more naive than Elroy. Elroy. Here's Elroy right there. Well, I think there was a band called His Boy Elroy. That's what it's from. So let me tell you what I told him, and then, the him they're talking about is, he had a heckler, I guess, somebody that was giving him a hard time on the website. Let me tell you the parts that would not fit in the comment box. The CEO does the math in 4 seconds. Nobody builds a data center the size of Manhattan to generate shopping lists and Facebook memes. These facilities are the brains for tens of millions of humanoid robots, I would say, and other things. And the business case is so simple, a CEO can do it during his backswing. Option 1, a blue-collar worker. $50,000 a year, plus healthcare, plus a pension, plus vacation days, plus the occasional grievance about losing fingers in machinery. Workers are so sensitive about their fingers. It's a shame, really. Option 2, the one-time purchase of a robot that does the same job better, works around the clock, never sleeps, never unionizes, and runs 10 years without a sick day. Every CEO on planet Earth takes option 2 and fires the entire floor. Not because he is cartoonishly evil, that part is a bonus, but because the spreadsheet says so, and the spreadsheet is his real religion. That is the millions of jobs plan. A reconstruction boom that builds the machine that eliminates construction booms. Here's Rosie nowadays. You built 500,000 of them as industrial laborers and household servants. Nobody counted again after the paint job. You would hope somebody in Washington would notice 500,000 potential infantry rolling off the line, which brings us to who got fired. Grandpa was a technocrat. Elon Musk did not invent the idea of engineers running the world instead of elected governments. His grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, was a leader of Technocracy Incorporated in Canada in the 1930s and 40s. An actual movement, gray uniforms, salutes, membership numbers instead of names, that wanted to abolish politicians and hand North America to a council of technical experts running everything as one giant engineering project. Canada banned the organization in 1940. Haldeman got arrested for it. This is not a rumor. It is a court record. That was Musk's grandfather, I guess, maybe maternal grandfather. 60 years ago, the tech did not exist to pull it off. The believers did what believers do. They waited. Millions of brainwashed voters cheered because they were told this was draining the swamp. It was not draining the swamp. It was firing the lifeguards. It was firing the lifeguards. A slow rollout, so subtle that only people who catch it are weirdos like me with kind of brain that is useless at parties, standing in the corner, talking about 1930s political movements while everyone slowly backs toward the guacamole. Meanwhile, the population prefers demagogues who think it is sixth grade level. I ran the readability test on one recently. The software said sixth grade. I do not editorialize, I measure, he says. Reading pre-approved crap off of a teleprompter. And here is how confident they are that nobody's paying attention. They started signing their work. They named it Prometheus on purpose. Yeah, so anyway. Typical Wise Wolf post. It's pretty long. Certainly worth a look. WiseWolf.club. TheWiseWolf.club is where that is. Okay, let's look at Revelation 18:23. Our weekly dive into Revelation1823.net from my good friend, Mr. Brian. Let's go down where we left off. I happen to remember where we left off from last week, so we'll just start with that section. It's section 3 down here. So we'll finish this section 3 and 4. I think that finishes out the homepage. We'll just do that bit tonight, and then the next week we'll start in on some of the other deeper stuff. So section 3, Revelation1823.net. Highly recommend this website. It's a really good one. Let me scroll back up here for a sec, in case you don't know what this site is. Revelation 1823, that is just 1823. Revelation1823.net. Greatest story never told. This is a website that documents pharmakia, big pharma, and their role in the building out of the beast system. Vaccination history, COVID-19 agenda, the beast system, mark of the beast. Okay? So it's all there, and downloadable PDFs. Fun for everyone. Section 3, the beast system, understanding the beast system of technology. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior, RFK Jr., from his speech in 2022 at the Lincoln Memorial. This syringe has inside of it 1,000 billion robots, quote unquote. I remember that. I've seen that video before. The above quote was taken from The Emergence of a Nanobot Society, How Nanobots Change Medicine, which is TEDMed, in Israel in 2013, from Dr. Ido Bachelet. Dr. Ido says the nanobots carry antennas that respond to EMFs like 5G and have IP addresses linked to the internet. And they can be activated with the press of a button from a remote device such as your cell phone. And every part of our nanobots are made from DNA molecules, quote unquote. Every part of our nanorobots are made from DNA molecules. Kind of important, seems to me. From www.pathogen, powershealth.org. Monday, November 10th, 2025. Health Day News. Imagine a brain implant that could be placed without surgically opening a person's skull, but instead through a simple injection in the arm. This is something that I've been talking about for a long time. When it comes to, Musk and his Neuralink system, actually physically opening up someone's skull to insert something is just so ridiculous. They don't need to do that. They can inject it. It can build itself inside the skull. I've known this for a long time. If I've known this, then you would think other people would as well. All right, I digress. Our tiny electronic devices seamlessly integrate with the neurons and coexist with the brain cells, creating a unique brain-computer symbiosis, said a senior researcher named Deblina Sarkar, an associate professor in the MIT Media Lab and MIT Center for Neurobiological Engineering. Chapter 1, Symbolism and How the Serpent Speaks. Chapter 2, The Cellular Beast System. This chapter exposes the spiritual ties and symbols behind the cell phone and how it will be used for mind control. Chapter 3, How the Internet Beast System will be used in implementing the Mark of the Beast. Chapter 4, Depopulation and Revelation 18:23. This chapter reveals the Masonic, i.e. Luciferian, origins of transhumanism and gives overwhelming evidence of how the nanotechnology in the mRNA sequences, vaccines, will be used to control humanity. Yeah, so that's Section 3. Section 4, Mark of the Beast, understanding the eschatology of the Mark of the Beast. The Techno-Crazy Old World, 1933 book. So this is actually a shot here of this 1933 cover of this book called the Techno-Crazy Old World. The Technocracy in the Light of Prophecy by J.C. Kellogg, 1933. Technocracy in the Light of Prophecy by J.C. Kellogg, the super dictator and the super robot of Revelation 13. Are they in the world today? Why would a Christian be asking that in 1933? You can see it right here in the corner. Because the technocracy social movement, active in the U.S. and Canada in the 1930s, were already advocating for a system controlled by technical experts rather than politicians. In other words, an AI digital slave race governed by the technocratic elite was always their dream. And the leading Canadian advocate, Joshua Haldeman, Elon Musk's maternal grandfather. Did we not just read about that a couple minutes ago on the very last article that I pulled up? I had no idea they were going to cross-pollinate with this sentence in this paragraph on this website. I literally just mentioned that on the last one. That is wild. Anyway, and I did say I bet it's his maternal grandfather, and turns out he is, according to this. And how did the technate of America plan to control us? With energy credits. Yes, even in the 30s, they wanted to implement and enforce energy distribution cards with non-transferable credits. Do you find it strange that Elon Musk is also horrified of a carbon dioxide and an environmental catastrophe just waiting to happen? Or that he owns Starlink, the largest satellite system in the world? Or that he was awarded a U.S. Grok for government AI contract to run a portion of the U.S. government? 1930s source. Wikipedia link over to Technocracy Movement. Does that mean that he is the Antichrist? No. He is simply part of the Luciferian orchestra, aka beast system, that will tie that system into the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and the UN's Pact for the Future Biometric Digital Convergence. Simply put, while the modern-day church is waiting for Mr. Evil, the Antichrist, to enter a third rebuilt temple, a detailed Luciferian blueprint has already been written for your soul. May I suggest it's time to study. Chapter 1, Eschatology, discusses the 4 different end times views: futurism, versus preterism versus historicism versus idealism. Gives evidence of their origin and exposes the Jesuit doctrine of futurism. Chapter 2, the Counter-Reformation, explains the origin, history, and source of futurism. Hermeneutics 101, the rules for the proper biblical interpretation of evidence. Chapter 4, Daniel 9:27, Christ or Antichrist, unraveling the 7-year Great Tribulation hoax. I've done a video on that, actually, Daniel 9:27, a few years ago. Chapter 5, Matthew 24, fulfilled or future is the Great Tribulation and End Times event. Chapter 6, the Antichrist, hidden in plain sight, exposing the whore, the Vatican of Babylon. Chapter 7, the Rapture, hope or hoax, exposes the false rapture deception. Chapter 8, Israel. This section is not anti-Semitic, but anti-Zionist, and shows the difference. Chapter 9, Part 1, the doctrine of the mark of the beast, understanding the mark of the beast throughout history. Chapter 10, Part 2a, mark of the beast, evidence for calculating the mark, name, and number of the beast, and more. Chapter 10, Part 2b, mark of the beast, please note, the track and trace humanist nanotechnology of the mark of the beast documented here is by far the most extensive gathering of evidence you will find anywhere, and explains precisely why the COVID-19 mRNA injections were forced on humanity and how they will be used in the digital slave race of Revelation 13. Or as Dr. Malone, pioneer of mRNA technology, said, it's not a conspiracy, transhumanism. They talk about the RNA vaccines as an entry point, so that's part of the push for why these particular products, mRNA vaccines, as it relates to that transhumanist agenda. And push they will. Why else would the WHO declare on January 21st, 2026, there will be influenza pandemics in the future? Because forced vaccinations that delete your God code, your DNA, in order to buy or sell the mark of the beast was always the serpent's plan. The pandemics are coming from labs, all of them. Lyme, COVID, RSV, HIV, and Spanish flu came out of the vaccine lab, RFK Jr. Vaccine research has created the worst plagues in our history. Also, RFK Jr. Legal disclaimer, all material used in this book is for educational purposes only and falls under Section 107 of the Fair Use Act. This outlines that fair use can include purposes such as criticism, news reporting, comments, teaching, scholarship, and research. All rights and credits go directly to their rightful owners. No copyright infringement is intended. Thank you and enjoy. Proceed to an overview of Section 1. Click here. So that is where we are. We literally made it clear through the rest of the home page. And I'm going to scroll up somewhat slowly, and you can see that there's a lot here on this page. We're going up, back to the top. And it's taken, multiple shows just to get to the bottom of the homepage. There's a lot of information here. So I would invite you guys to have a look at this site. Feel free to read ahead. I just thought I would kind of go through it bit by bit and see what you guys thought about it. I think it's a really well done website. So anyway, that one is, again, Revelation1823.net is where that is. And we'll read some more starting with the button at the bottom of the page where that takes us next week. As to be expected, Lindsey Graham, Israel's fiercest ally in the U.S. Senate, dies at 71. I wanted to see what Israel 365 News said. They're very sad about Lady G. Very sad. Don't know that there's anything new here. I just wanted to see how it represented him, and it was a glowing review. Let's just put it that way. Israeli leaders mourn a beloved friend. So I think you could probably safely say that Israel may not have been involved in getting rid of Lady G. Now, you can't say that about them and a lot of people, but you can probably safely say that about him. So maybe we need a new meme or something. Sounds like, just from what I gather, I didn't really follow Lady G that much, but he would probably blame Putin for his demise. So it's Putin did it type of thing. Even though it was probably the CV-19 VAXX that he took. If he really, truly did die of a heart attack and heart disease and all of that we read at the beginning of the show, seems to me like that is the obvious answer as to what happened. Maybe I'm just guessing. All right. Let's look at GeoWatch. This week's GAN, Global Alert News, is called Unstoppable Horror. Scientists plan to stop rare El Nino heat wave may trigger unstoppable horror. Yeah, imagine it probably would. Can we geoengineer ourselves out of an El Nino year? That's a Scientific American headline, by the way. Can geoengineering blunt El Nino's fury? That's another one from Science News. Question, is the decades-long manipulation of the global climate system by covert climate engineering operations actually a core causal factor for the very impending ocean warming disaster that we are now being told climate engineering could fix? Reality is this. The statement, trigger unstoppable horror, quote unquote, from the AOL headline, which was the first one, is already unfolding. And he goes into that in the latest installment right here. Episode 570. We've been doing that show for quite a few years, every week. As he says, he never misses a week. And that is true. I've been with him the whole time. We've done all these 570 Global Alert News hour-long programs every week for however many years that is. Long time. Anyway, GeoWatch. And again, I would mention the dimming, another good one to share with people. Lots of good resources on this site. Don't forget to follow him on X. I hardly ever mention this, but don't forget to follow his X pages. Dane Wigington on X, GeoWatch Gallery, which is mostly pictures, on X, and GeoEng Watch. GeoEng Watch on X. So those are all three official Twitter/X accounts. And they're linked to there. You saw it. They're linked here on this panel on the left. And then Rumble is right here as well. If you happen to be on Rumble, make sure you give Mr. Dane a follow on there too. So anyway, that is GeoWatch for this week. Let's take a look at the scheduled weather before we wrap things up for tonight. At least the temperatures. Looks like more heat. Little pocket down here, below normal, but pretty much, and up here, but pretty much warm everywhere else. Note, they're trying to keep Alaska cooled down. Still seeing a lot of trails and stuff around, obviously, though, so, you know, who knows what they're spraying, but doesn't appear to be any chemically ice-nucleated events coming up in the next few days. This is valid July 18th through 22nd. So starting in, 6 days. Anyway, I wanted to mention all of that. That is on the NOAA scheduled weather. Well, they call it the Climate Prediction Center, but I call it the scheduled weather page. So anyway, yeah, okay. So we've talked a lot about Israel tonight, and I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and show you guys something. Well, not really show you as much as just mention this and see what you guys think about it. Here's what happened this week. After I enjoy a beverage. I believe, I can't prove it, but I believe that my website and therefore my business was targeted this past week. And I discovered it this week. I should preface this by saying I don't visit my own website every single day, although I probably should. I don't know exactly what day my website went down, but let's just say it took me all week really to get it all sorted out. And it was quite a mess. At one point, I thought I was going to have to rebuild it from scratch. Let's just say that my website exists with some of my other client websites on one main server, but on multiple servers on a well-known provider. And, you know, from time to time, if you don't have the proper tools in place, a website can get what's called malware. And you've heard of malware, I'm sure, before. You can get malware on your computer, especially if you're a Windows, if you have a Windows computer, which it's mostly a headache. It doesn't generally destroy stuff. It just can cause real headaches, like it could take over your browser, for instance. So when you go open your browser, you'll get other pop-ups, or it might not let you go to certain pages, like maybe it will force something on you, certain pages, things like that. Well, malware is more of a nuisance. It's not really something that is destructive from the standpoint of destroying files on your computer. It can be, I suppose. Viruses certainly can do that. Well, let's say that over the last few days, at some point, the server that hosts my main website for my business, which is how I pay for doing this show, right? How I pay for everything that I'm doing professionally, which is diamonddiscaudio.com. I'm currently going through a marketing program where we're changing the brand to Diamond Digital Audio. That's neither here nor there. Down the road a little ways, but it's diamonddiscaudio.com. That is my main site, and I make no bones about it. I don't hide it from people, and note that it is linked here on Linktree, which is where all of my links to the various platforms for the Diamond Report are. But it is the bottom button down here, Diamond Digital Audio. Takes you right to it. If I click that, I go here to this page. It's what I do for a living: production, mastering, mixing, editing, design, development, placement. We help give your project the edge it deserves to put you ahead of your competitors. Guess what? It was all taken out this week. Completely wiped out. Now, having a website get an infection, whether it's a virus or typically it's malware, can cause problems, but usually it's a matter of just restoring a few files or restoring a set of files, and then the website comes back up. Well, guess what? My entire website was it wasn't hacked, it was targeted, it was attacked. And not only was it attacked and taken down, all of the files on my server were completely deleted. It was gone. So I go into the folder that houses all of the all of the files that's supposed to make up my website. The folders were empty. How does that happen? Malware doesn't really do that. Not that I've seen anyway. So somehow my system got completely destroyed. My website was completely gone. It was down for probably 4 or 5 days this week until we got it all sorted out. And, you know, having things as a backup is something that you have to do. If you have websites, if you own or maintain websites or work on websites for people, and I do that, of course. So we did have a backup. It took a little while to get it all operational again, but I had a lot of help, and I kept seeing, in dates and times and things like that from, not really emails from the company that I work with, but from messages within their platform would come in at 11:11, or the backup was created at 11:11 on a certain day, or whatever. I kept seeing all these different messages, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not worried about it because I feel like God is telling me He's got it in control. And I thought at one point I was going to have to recreate my website from scratch. I've had a version of this website since I started my business in 1996. I think I put up my first website in about 1997. So some version of this website, see, I've been in business 30 years this year. Actually, next month will be 30 years. I've had some version of this website nearly that whole time. And I was afraid I was going to have to rebuild from scratch, even with the backup files. But luckily, I didn't have to do that. I was able to get it all restored, and everything worked out okay. Am I blaming Israel for doing that? Not necessarily, but it is highly suspect when you lose, not only just have your website taken down, but all of the files were completely wiped out. That was odd. That was a really strange one. I've never seen that before. I've seen websites get hacked. I've seen malware attack things and take the website down. And it usually adds files. Like if your website gets hacked, if you go look at the server, you have extra files that were not supposed to be in there that have been added, and not really necessarily missing stuff, but you could have stuff altered or things added. They don't usually delete stuff. Well, in this case, my website was completely gone, and the files were completely gone. Here's some of my web clients and stuff like that. So it's all here. Yes, there's me. And it's all back up. Seems to be working fine. And praise to God, I didn't have to start from scratch, because what I was literally going back to, okay, how much of this website is embodied on archive.org? I was actually looking at archive.org thinking, I'm going to have to rebuild this thing using archive.org instead of my backup. But we ended up making the backup work, long story short. So isn't that strange and fun? That's how my week has been this week. How about your week? Was it good? I hope it was. All right, so let's take a look at, well, here, let me show you the other pages here while I've got it. Substack, if you're not already on there, there it is, diamonddisc.substack.com. You can get there from the QR code right up there. You scan it, and it will take you to a page that looks a lot like this one. And matter of fact, it is this one. And you can click through and get to any of these Diamond Report pages. And I would say that I haven't had any attacks on any Diamond Report anything. It's only on my business, which again is how I pay the bills. So isn't that lovely? So now I'm waiting for my emails that I get from the banks and people that I work with saying that I've been debanked. That's probably next. I hope not, but I won't be surprised. All right, and then here is that link on MasterPeace if you guys are interested in what that does, removing all of the toxins and things like that we've talked about. Well, not all of them, but hopefully much of them. Things that we've talked about in the pharma stuff that we've discussed this week. And so that is linked to, again, on the link tree. And then other ways to support the show, we have Subscribestar, of course, and Substack that I just mentioned. And let's see, Buy Me a Coffee right here. So thank you for the contributors who have decided to help me out. I really, really do appreciate that and help me pay the bills a little bit. But this example of this week with the website being completely destroyed, for me was a little eye-opening in a way, because it tells me that, number one, I can't quit my day job, which I don't want to quit my day job anyway, and just do live streaming and podcast stuff all the time. I love doing this, but I'm just saying I can't pay my bills with it, because there's not enough, there's not enough of an audience yet to do that. And that helps to reiterate the information for me that I need to continue on with my music endeavors as well, because that, again, is the way I make it all work. So I just thought that was pretty wild, and I wanted to share that with you guys, and hopefully it wasn't too boring. Anyway, let's take a look at the comments and stuff real quick before we wrap it up tonight. We're running kind of long, I guess, but that's okay. Let's see what you guys are up to, and then we'll wrap it up. That was a professional takedown. A gentleman I listened to for years had similar happen, and that is what he said happened to him. Yeah, I wonder, Miss Betty, did he say that he figured out who it was, or if it's who I think it is? And it may not be, but I do think it's highly interesting that that it happened the way that it did. If it was just hacked or attacked and files edited or replaced, I could see that it was probably bots doing it. That would make a lot of sense. But the fact that the files were completely destroyed was really interesting. And let's add this one other little twist. The files that made up my website were completely destroyed, but the other websites were totally fine. Yeah. William says, another phase of intrusion to endure. Seen ways to legally push back the surveillance system without damage to private property. Yeah, we're talking about the flock cameras and stuff. Yep. I considered McConnell brain dead long before now. No, that's, I think that's kind of what the majority of people say. Daryl says, get away from Nashville and Memphis. You might not be wrong. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate that. We do have a bug out location. I'll just leave it at that. We do have a bug out location. I can't say where. But yeah, I think we'll be okay. If push comes to shove and we have to get out of town, I think we'll be all right. Larry Loomer, yeah. That is a Candaceism. I can't take credit for that. Oh, he says that he called it the MOUSE too. Yeah, that's what I called it. What was it? Memorandum of Understanding Satan's Enterprises. And Enterprises was a contributed word from Miss Susan. Yeah. Memorandum of Understanding Satan's Enterprises. Pretty good, I must say. Yeah, Marty says it's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Shemitism. From Shem. That's right. Hazelnut. Well, it's horrible. The bright blue sunny skies have changed to gray, white, toxic soup. Yes. And it depends on where you live. I think it's worse, maybe certain places than others. That was the beauty of those bioweapons. Some batches hot, others relatively harmless. Yes, that's right. And I've talked about that a lot. I think that's one of those details that people, for whatever reason, seem to, I don't know, forget, or they don't know it, or what. Not everybody got the same thing. That's very true. Not everybody got the same thing. And we know from multiple sources that, Republican states were highly targeted. Red states were highly targeted with the actual really nasty version of the mRNA CV19 jabbies, right? Red states were highly targeted. And therefore, you have more die-off in those states. And people getting injured and sick and all that. So, yeah. Good night, beautiful Diamond family. Much love. Be well, be safe. Take care of your wee little selves, especially weather-wise. Thanks, Betty. Appreciate that. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that was it for me tonight. Stay tuned. We got one more video we'll play, and then we will be off and rolling for the week coming up. Hopefully, you guys have a great week this week. Next show will be what? July 19th? July 19th coming up. So 9 p.m. start time, 9 p.m. Central U.S. time on July 19th. It'll be a week from now. So we'll do it again then. And hello to everyone out there. If I didn't say it at the beginning of the show, I don't even think I said my name or the name of the show. I just totally went right into it. But yeah, thank you for being on the Diamond Report Live and for hanging out with me for the last, 3 hours plus. And for everybody out there on the 2 YouTube channels, the 2 Facebook pages, Telegram, Kick, and Rumble, in all those different places. And again, I've mentioned it multiple times, but I will keep mentioning it. The chat is attached to the live stream. So except for Telegram, it doesn't quite work that way. But the others, if you're chatting, it will show up on the screen. So that's good. It's good and bad, I guess. But it's good for the most part. So anyways, yes, hope you guys have a great week this week. And not really anything too special, I think, in our world this week. Got family traveling, and I think mostly just a standard week, as it were. But it's been really hot here lately and rainy and stuff like that, kind of both. We have high humidities and fairly high temperatures. So anyway, hopefully things will cool off a little bit, but who knows? Who knows? Miss Emily says, thank you, Doug. God bless you and yours. And thank you, Miss Emily. Same to you. Yes. thank you guys a lot and really appreciate the blessings you all are, and for supporting the show, sharing the clips that I'm putting out every week. Daily, really, at this point. I'm putting out clips on Wednesday through Saturday. So if you guys don't mind sharing those, totally free and easy thing to do. If you feel like it, don't feel obligated, but that's an option. I'm putting the clips out on both YouTube channels as well as Rumble. We did Rumble this last week, and I think the week before as well. And that seems to be working out pretty well. It does take extra time and work on my end, but I think it's sort of, people are picking up on it that, don't have time to watch a 3-hour show or whatever, so they'll tune into a 5-minute clip. So I think that's a good thing to do. Anyway, blessings, you guys. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll do it again next week. Love y'all. Talk to you again real soon.
Newly released documents regarding the 2016 murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich have surfaced thanks to attorney Ty Clevenger battling the FBI's stonewalling for nearly a decade through FOIA requests. Now a government lawyer has promised confirmation of several hundred pages of Seth Rich-related documents that were unearthed in a previously hidden, unmapped, and sealed SCIF room. This discovery, like the burn bags of classified files linked to the Crossfire Hurricane operation, exposes a deliberate concealment at the highest levels.
Sadly, we found a room locked away in the Hoover building that contained burn bags. And just for your audience, Sean, a burn bag is a government bag that is specifically created to destroy classified evidence and shred and burn it. Hence the name burn bag. We didn't find one, we found 7. That wasn't the only thing we found in there. We found hard drives from our predecessors and prior FBI leadership, and folks like Page, Strzok, Comey, the list goes on from Russiagate. The names were strewn all over these materials.
Frankly, the FBI should be ashamed of themselves, and so should the Department of Justice.
On July 10th, 2016, Seth Rich was gunned down in a so-called botched robbery in Bloomingdale, D.C. Rich's wallet, phone, and valuables untouched. 2 bullets in his back. The FBI initially claimed zero involvement, no records, handing it off to local police. But then, years later, they admitted holding thousands of pages, Rich's work laptop, images of his personal device, and more.
Do you even know what you're sitting on? WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States.
With fresh court motions as recent as June 2026, highlighting ongoing violations of orders to release. Now, this secret vault, uncovered amid 2025 sweeps of the Hoover building, suggests high-level actors had everything to hide. Was the botched robbery narrative simply a convenient lie to bury deeper truths about DNC leaks, WikiLeaks, and the Russia hoax machinery?
Now, some believe that Rich's laptop had been confiscated by federal agents and that the key data had never been released to the public. Others allege that the case had been deliberately buried to prevent exposure of a larger scandal involving voter fraud and party corruption or illegal intel operations. And the conspiracy theory, as we say, persisted, in part because it was never given a definitive open and shut answer, only dismissals by institutions that many Americans no longer trust.
This is the cybersecurity unit at DHS. So they had to contextualize their censorship operations as being cyber-related somehow. So instead of just calling it First Amendment violating government censorship, they say, no, it's just borrowing from the cyber kill chain model, which just serves as an inspiration for this framework. So it's cybersecurity.
This latest discovery has caught the deep state completely off guard. Their playbook in real time, erasing trails, gaslighting the public, and weaponizing disinformation labels to silence questions. Will these pages finally expose the truth, or will more burn bags and sealed vaults bury it all again? John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network at alexjoneslive.com.
A stele is like an ancient Egyptian billboard. Pharaohs used them to record major events, announce their deeds, and communicate with the public. The dream stele is a large stone slab, 4.2 meters tall, made of granite. It was carved with hieroglyphs around 1400 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose IV of the 18th dynasty, who had it placed between the paws of the Great Sphinx of Giza as the back wall of a small chapel he built there. It was later buried under sand, where it remained for centuries, before being rediscovered in 1818 by Giovanni Battista Caviglia. According to the inscription, a young Prince Thutmose was out on a hunting expedition near the pyramids when he grew tired and lay down to rest in the shade of the Great Sphinx's massive head, which at the time was buried up to its neck in sand. Thutmose then had a dream that the Sphinx, speaking as the sun god, promised him the throne of Egypt if he would excavate the Sphinx from the desert sands. Thutmose did so. The dream stele shows two sphinxes, and while the official argument is that this is a standard convention in Egyptian art used to emphasize the importance of a divine entity through duplication, others have argued that it is a literal depiction and that a second sphinx exists or had existed somewhere on the Giza Plateau. Based on the equinoctial alignments observed on the Giza Plateau, as well as historical and religious indicators, researcher Damiano Pires hypothesized the existence and location of a second sphinx. He published his methods and findings in the book, The Dawn of a New Sphinx. Last year, researchers Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga famously announced their discovery of massive underground structures beneath the Giza Plateau in Egypt, over 700 meters deep. This research was primarily done using SAR, synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. In simple terms, this is a way of seeing underground using radar from satellites or aircraft. Radar waves are cast down to the Earth's surface, where they record signals and are then bounced back. By using multiple passes over the same area, the system creates high-resolution images that can detect millimeter-scale movements. By combining these scans with complex computer processing, scientists create 3D models made up of slices known as tomograms that illustrate what lies beneath the surface. It's much like a medical CAT scan on a grand scale. This technology is excellent for mapping large features and can identify density differences underground. At a recent conference in Bologna, Italy, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga presented their latest findings in their Coffer research project. Once again, using SAR Doppler tomography to scan an area on the Giza Plateau, they have found what appears to be a buried sphinx-shaped structure. The SAR scans show the outline of a sphinx that mirrors the one on the surface. It has the same body, head, and paws, with the same intact Uraeus cobra, which was removed from the Great Sphinx on the surface, on its forehead. It appears to be the same size and shape of the Great Sphinx on the surface, and it is exactly where Damiano Pires hypothesized it would be. The scans also reveal the same vertical shafts and passages found beneath the pyramids and the entire plateau seen in their previous work. The researchers used AI to analyze the scans. The AI gave high probabilities, ranging from 78% to 96.5%, that the structures were indeed a sphinx-like monument, not a natural formation. The research team plans to submit a proposal to Egyptian authorities to excavate the site. which was covered by a 108-foot mound of sand in the 1920s. This area was known as the Western Cemetery and was recognized as a burial ground for high-ranking nobles, but for some reason became a garbage dump for material excavated from other areas on the plateau. Greg Reese reporting.